because I was a bad lawyer.
Good morning, Madam Clerk. Hey.
It's on.
It's not
Good
on.
morning, Madam Mayor.
Can you hear me? Is that better?
It's on.
Move it
Just
up.
make sure it's close.
Can you hear me now?
All right.
Better?
If we're
Okay.
ready to call this meeting to order.
All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay. We're going to get started this morning. And we are going to start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. And we have some future mayors in the house, right? Good morning. And you are from the Mount Rose School, right? And you're in 7th grade. Come on up. Introduce yourself. Are you nervous? No. A little bit? That's okay. I get nervous too.
I'm Ava Garcia. I'm in 7th grade.
And then my name's Alexandra Ballard. We're in 7th grade at Mount Rose.
Yep.
You're both
Hey,
in
ladies,
7th
can you
grade.
step right up to the mic as close as possible so we can catch what you're saying? Thank you.
Okay, so I hear that you're going to lead us in the pledge, and you are going to do it in English and Spanish. Is that correct? And your teacher, please stand up because our teachers are so important. Give him a big round of applause, Mr. Ortiz. I thought you guys were going to do all the work, but we were going to make him stand up and embarrass him a little bit. But I'm going to have you guys all stand and lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yo juro alianza a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y de la República que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos.
All right, great job. I'm impressed. Good job. All right, Madam Clerk, I'm going to send it over to you for roll call.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Calling roll for Wednesday, February 28th. Councilmember Breckus.
I'm here.
Dewar.
Here.
Martinez. Here. Ebert. Absent at this time. Taylor. Here. Reese.
Here.
Sheevy.
Here.
Madam Mayor, you do have a quorum of the Reno City Council.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to send it to you, back to you for public comment.
Perfect. Madam Mayor, our first item today is public comment. Members of the public may hear, observe, and provide public comment virtually by registering through the following link, which can be found on reno.gov/meetings. https://LINK/COL/FL02-28. It should be noted for those in the audience that comments are to be addressed to the mayor and council as a whole. Comments heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the council's agenda. Council may not take action upon any matter not agendized on today's agenda. When you're called on for public comment, please state your name for the record and begin speaking. The timer will begin when you say your name, and you will be afforded 3 minutes. For those participating in chambers, in accordance with Council Rules 6.3.11, while in this room, please be respectful. Disruptive behavior from audience members like clapping, yelling, whistling, etc., which impede the meeting, may result in a warning from the presiding officer. If the behavior continues, you may be removed from chambers. If you're an attendee in the Zoom meeting and would like to make public comment, please raise your hand at this time. Our first public commenter is Terry Brooks, followed by Sean Hill, followed by Garrett Gordon.
Good morning. It's me, Terry Brooks again. And today I feel the responsibilities to address discrimination against those with physical disabilities. Every day, a lot of people experience accidents that wind up leaving them with physical impairments. Some people are even born physically impaired and ever since they were born, it's been a burden they have bared. One very impairing kind of disability is the kind that really impairs a person's mobility. So many people spend their lives in a wheelchair, and for them to be discriminated against absolutely is not fair. Even after some recovery, they still need a walker, crutches, or a cane. They're gradually gaining ground, but still going through a lot of pain. Some might lose the use of a leg because of going through some harm, and then they might learn how to depend on more use of an arm. Or someone might lose the use of one arm and then learn to depend on using their other arm. When someone loses some of their abilities, all their body parts help them to learn more of their capabilities. When something happens that leads to losing some ability, it can then lead to being open to a new possibility. So anyone who discriminates against others because of their disabilities is someone who really lacks social responsibilities. Anyone who deserves to have a second chance so that they can then learn how to advance. Each part of our body is a separate tool that works with others to prove themselves above any kind of ridicule. I would like to thank you all for putting up with me today, and I look forward to being able to come back with a lot more to say.
Oh, very nice. Okay, where are we at?
This is chapter 25. Just so you know, I've only got 21 more chapters to go.
Good job.
Thanks
Thank
very
you so much.
Sean Hill, followed by Garrett Gordon.
Thank you, council members, mayor, and city manager. My name is Sean Hill, and I have the honor and privilege to lead one of our community's great not-for-profit organizations, Sierra Nevada Journeys. We are on your agenda today, so I wanted to offer some background. Sierra Nevada Journeys started in the back of the old Rocksport climbing gym off Audi and Silverado in 2006. Our origin story is that our founder was with a group of Reno students near Lake Tahoe when one of them asked him if sharks can be found in that ocean. I've been with the organization since 2009, and I've really built my career around our vision, which is to transform lives by building curiosity, confidence, and connections to nature, especially for students who are traditionally underserved. Sierra Nevada Journeys serves the community through outdoor, STEM, and youth development programs. Last year, we served almost 15,000 students in northern Nevada, with a majority from Title I schools. We support teachers with hands-on science lessons in the classroom, take students on one-day field studies to local natural areas, such as the Oxbow Nature Study, and own and operate a residential science camp about 45 minutes from town near the Feather River in Plumas County. To sustain our programs, we rely on program fees and fundraising. The resolution you have in front of you will go directly to our scholarship program, which allows us to reduce or remove the cost for entry to our outdoor STEM education programs for young people living in Reno. Thank you for your time.
Sean, thank you so much. Good work.
Good morning, Madam Mayor, Council. For the record, my name is Garrett Gordon. I'm going to read a statement from Jeff Jacobs related to the postponement of item C1. The statement is from Jeff Jacobs from Jacobs Entertainment. Our efforts to revitalize almost half of downtown Reno come with a certain level of social responsibility. As a developer and former elected official, I take that responsibility seriously. For almost 30 years, I have been actively involved with the oldest black church of my hometown of West Palm Beach. The oldest black church in the neighborhood is the historic Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church, pastored by my spiritual advisor, Reverend Gerald D. Kisner, a former undersecretary of HUD. I've enjoyed interactions with my friend, Reverend Kisner, and the historic Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church for several decades. Reverend Kisner married my former wife and I almost 30 years ago, and one of the highlights of my life was 25 years ago with the birth of my oldest son and his blessing by Reverend Kisner at Tabernacle. In many ways, the Tabernacle Church building is similar to the downtown Reno Bethel AME Church, full of African-American history. It has seen its good days and its difficult days. I am pleased to have quietly contributed to the restoration of the Palm Beach Church after 2 hurricanes over the last 20 years. I was also pleased to assist the congregation in the creation of the UB Kisney educational and community center across the street. The center was named after UB Kisney, the first African-American high school principal in West Palm Beach County. It provides many services to the poorest community in the county. Going to its website, you will see the recognition of the contribution of the Jacobs Family Foundation for Children. My children and I have welcomed the opportunity to donate over $5 million to the construction and operation of this much-needed community asset. I am proud of my efforts to assist a historic Black church in my hometown. However, it is a 30-year journey that frames my thinking about Pastor Whitlock's efforts and the Bethel AME Church in downtown Reno. Yesterday, I was provided an opportunity by Mayor Sheevy and Councilmember Reese to sit down for the first time with Pastor Whitlock and hear her thoughts on the rebirth of downtown Reno and the need for development with inclusion. Her thoughts go beyond parking spaces, go beyond abandoned alleyways, and just as I have a vision for a revitalized downtown Reno, Pastor Whitlock has a vision that includes several important facets of Black history in Washoe County. Pastor Whitlock has reminded me that I have a responsibility to listen to all voices as I continue my redevelopment efforts in downtown Reno. I suggest that as a starting point be that Pastor Whitlock and her congregation identify 3 West Coast African-American land use planners for us to interview. I will pay to bring one on board to listen to and respond to the thoughts of Pastor Whitlock and her congregation. I will also assist the congregation in an effort to raise federal money and donations in order to bring to fruition their vision and their interest in seeing revitalization of downtown Reno being completed in an inclusionary manner. Thank you.
Thanks.
John Kukulika, followed by Reverend Dr. Deborah Whitlock-Lax. I don't see John.
John?
He stepped out.
Stepped out. Okay, we'll bring him back
Dr.
in.
Deborah
he's ready.
Whitlock-Lax, followed by Renate Lawrence. Did this work?
For the record, Reverend Dr. Deborah Whitlock-Lax, Bethel AME Church, speaking on C1, the abandonment of portions of Bell Street. Mayor, hello.
Good morning.
It seems like we meet all the time, isn't it? And Don,
It's only a few short hours ago.
I know, it seems that way. Well, listen, I am just so thankful to Garrett and to Mr. Jacobs for meeting with me on yesterday. We met first time in person yesterday, but we've had several conversations on the phone and via email. Certainly, my concern is always making sure that our properties and its access is stable, as well as making sure that African Americanism is not just pushed aside, but that we are a significant presence in the Reno area since 1907. Scripture tells us that our children should be able to ask the elders of their communities what's up about our history, and that's Deborah's version of the Bible. Amen. And so I just want to say that I was pleased with the meeting on yesterday. I was pleased to see that Mr. Jacobs was interested in negotiating what we're doing. We have a lot of work to do, and so I was glad to hear that he was willing to postpone his petition for another 30 days to come back to the table and look at some other opportunities. We are interested in making sure that the legacy of Bethel AME Church continues in this community with the Cultural Center, with the Black Museum, because it is a nationally registered church. And so we want to make sure that that not only the newcomers of the Reno area doesn't just push us aside, but really embraces not only the needs, and Mr. Jacobs has done a great job in putting up affordable living, housing, but we want to see a little bit more. And I think that if we work together, we can do a lot of things. I'm looking for a win-win solution, not a zero-sum solution. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Great outfit. Love it. Doing my fashionista. Yes.
I'm hearing from Mr. Gordon and the speaker that the item that's on the agenda, I think it's C1, is going to be postponed. That's a vote of the council, and we're going to take that vote. I'm not inclined to say it's a done thing and that I'm supportive of that. I think the best process, frankly, to do, as the pastor said, we have a lot of work to do, and Mr. Gordon said we need to hire a planner, is for Jacobs to withdraw the request. Because with the request in place, it presumes an outcome. And if this is going to be a participatory outcome, I think that we either hear it today on its merits, or Jacobs withdraws to show good faith that they will work collaboratively, not with an upper hand of a staff recommendation to abandon those streets, which council follows 99% of the time. So I just want to let that out there, and we'll have more discussion when we approve the agenda.
And I think this is a much broader conversation. And when you talk about when we abandon streets, they're oftentimes, when they are downtown, it depends on the situation. But I do want to point out the last one, and oftentimes we do that because property owners want to have control of the property around them so they can take care of it, keep it clean, do things that we can't do at the city level. So there's various reasons to do that. So anyway, we'll come back to this after public comment. You know that.
Renee Lawrence, followed by Alicia Barber.
Hi, Renee.
Actually, it's Renata.
Oh, Renata.
Renata Lawrence. I have been a member of this community for 34 years. I'm a nurse. I celebrate 30 years of nursing this year. My son was a graduate of Reno High School in 2007. The reason I'm here today is because of the new swimming pool. I will be 64 this summer, and I have been swimming for 59 years of my life. I have swam every year in almost every pool in this community. The reason I'm here is I just want to advocate for a locker room expansion in the new facility. I have been a city, high school, college competitive swimmer for most of my life. I don't swim masters, but I do swim. And I really want to be a support to the swimmers in this community, that we offer a swimming pool that gives them the nurturing and the confidence to have swim meets and promote that their dreams, if it's just into college or if it's on professionally, that here in the city of Reno, we have a pool that supports those visions and those dreams. And that's all I have to say.
Well, great. Are you excited? Have you driven by?
Not until you fix the locker room issue. One of the reasons I'm here today is because there was the thing out, we have to decorate. And I'm like, no, we have to fix the inside of the pool arena to make it a competitive arena and something for Reno to be proud of. I have swam, like I said, in Idlewild Pool all summer long. I work around my schedule. I'm a small business owner to make sure that I can swim lap pool. If I have not volunteered to lifeguard, but I could very easily get my lifeguarding license to be a lifeguard in my retirement years. I don't know. But I know that I want to swim, and I know this city needs a pool that will allow all of us to use that facility for a long period of time.
Yeah, it's going to be beautiful. Yeah.
All right.
You have
Well, I
people
want
here that
locker
have
rooms.
worked really, really hard, right? Chip, I see you back there. Worked really, really hard. So thank you so much.
Madam Mayor,
Bye, Renata.
if I may, I just wanted to assure Renata and other people that are concerned about this issue that since it is in my ward, and I've been an advocate proponent of the pool the whole 10 years I've been on council, that I am taking a deeper dive. I have met with Chip and others offline. I've got the plans. I'm looking for, is there a way to meet everyone's desires and needs for the pool? May or may not be, but I wanted to assure you that I am taking a deep dive into it. So thank you for being here.
Did you
Alicia
say
Barb-
deep dive?
Yes, I didn't know
She
if
said
anybody
deep
caught
dive.
that. Good job, Mayor.
Alicia Barber, followed by John Kukulika.
Hi, Alicia.
Good morning, everyone. Very nice to see you, and I wasn't planning to speak today, but Pastor Whitlock last asked if I would. So I'm here in support of the Bethel AME Church and the congregation in opposition to the abandonment request for the parts of Bell Street and the alleyways, and so that's primarily what I wanted to express today. I, even before Councilman Breckus mentioned this, was hoping that I had heard that this was being removed from the agenda. I was hoping it was being withdrawn, because if it is continued, then the same agenda item will appear with the same request. And I hope that in the spirit of conversation and discussion, which I know has begun, and I'm grateful to those of you who have been speaking with Pastor Whitlock-Lex over the last couple of days. I had the pleasure of attending church on Sunday, and she opened me literally with open arms, but I had been invited by another member of the congregation, Mel Gentry, who came to my talk the other day. We were talking about recent advances in the history of the African American community here, and we are really embarking upon such an exciting time of collaboration with Our Story Inc., with these congregations, with all of us who are working on history in the community. We have worked on Reno Historical, thanks to some grants from the John Ben Snow Foundation and others, to diversify content on there. And we are only beginning to give the wider history of this area the attention that it deserves and the respect that it deserves. And we're learning so much more even about Bell Street. One of the projects we were able to embark upon last year was to look at where the church got the land and learn that the original homestead of these lots was William and Sarah Hamilton, an African-American couple who moved to Reno in the 1870s and bought property. Their first house was at the site of what's now the Palladio, right on the river, on the north side of the river, on the original town site. They bought land there, they bought land on Arlington, and then they bought this land in the Pounding Addition in 1900. They established a homestead and sold this bottom portion of their land to the Bethel AME Church in 1910, so they could build their church there. They moved their own house a little further north, and members of this family were very engaged in that congregation for a long time. It's exciting work that's only made available now to us through digitization of records. We're having these conversations. We're expanding our knowledge and history. So I want to encourage more discussion. I want to encourage a withdrawal of that item. I think that that could change considerably, so it would be nice to know that that could be a completely different item if it popped back up on the agenda. But thank you. I just want to express my gratitude for the discussion, for the conversations. This is what we all hope for when it comes to telling the stories of our community and making sure that that public memory stays alive, and that we respect the history of the incredible breadth of our communities that make up Reno. Thank you so much.
Right, good job.
Dr. Barber, you had hosted a conversation at the South Valley's Library a couple of weeks ago, and unfortunately, I think it was Super Bowl Sunday. And so my Chiefs were there, and so I was had my heart somewhere else. But is that something you're going to do another presentation on? Is it something you're...
We absolutely can, and thank you, Councilman Reese, for bringing that up. We were presenting on recent research in Reno's African-American history and focusing on a lot of the collaborative work that we've been doing over the last 5 years in particular with Our Story Inc. and Historic Reno Preservation Society, including Bethel AME. Happy to present that information. We did that with Kenneth and Demetrius Dalton of Our Story Inc. I'd be happy to present that and have that conversation. We have Dr. Jake Dorman in the audience here, who is a professor of history at UNR, working on another exciting project about restrictive racial covenants. So there's much, much more to be talked about and discussed. So
I think there's something there for our city initiative that the city manager's office leads around conversations. And so I'm hoping that Ms. Esparza and Mr. Thornley will reach out to you and see if we can't include that in one of the citywide opportunities, because there's a lot of opportunity there. And I think it would fit well with that, especially the redlining conversation, which has been an important conversation to have. So we'll make sure that we get you some information about that and try to connect.
Terrific. Thanks so
And
much.
not only that, because there's so much historical significance in what you do, I would love it, honestly, if you could come a little bit more and say, hey, we're going to do this, because we have a lot of people that watch online too, and it's just invaluable. So when you're doing something, I want to know.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And everyone can look me up online and also read my newsletter, The Barber Brief, where I talk a lot about these issues too and try to bring more attention to issues that are facing our city. So thank you very much.
Right.
John Kukulika, followed by Jacob Dorman.
Good morning.
How do I,
They will do it for you.
Just put it right up on the screen right there, and we'll put it up for you.
There you go.
I'm here to address the homeless situation on Dickerson Road, which is about a mile west of here. My wife and I have 3 acres there and have lived there for 35 years. She was born on the property. Her dad bought it in 1949. And the homeless situation has just become unbearable. I'm just putting these pictures here to show you a little bit about what we look out through our front door. And, you know, we feel very sorry for them.
I don't know that I have
I'm glad the
ability
kids
to
are here, so
manage.
they are not
Oh, I
here, so
can.
they don't have to watch this stuff.
So
And this is the
Jen
view
can-
from the other
am I
side, looking
hearing?
down our driveway. My wife has become very good, close with Jenny, who has helped us, you know, on thousands of phone calls. The beginning of the street of Dickerson Road on the right side, these huge RVs are parked there all the time. They're unlicensed, they're filthy. The stench here is just disgusting. And across the river from us, because we have 350 feet of river frontage, is the riverbank and the homeless camp there. And they build fires, and they have, you know, sodomy and sex and everything else right on the riverbanks for my children and my grandchildren to view. It's disgusting. Now, recently, the city of Sparks has initiated some new laws. Just as of last week, there's no more sleeping in cars, there's no more camping within 1,000 feet of the Truckee River, and they can't create fires in public areas anymore. I would just beg that we could do something here in Reno. Are we? Oh, you do have the same one. Well, is it being enforced?
So, and I don't know how much I can elaborate since we're in public comment. That property is owned by Union Pacific.
Right.
And they have been incredibly challenging, and from what I understand, that we have been fining them every day, and we need their cooperation. I just received a letter this morning that our federal delegation has also been made aware of this. We need to make sure that they are working with us. We've asked for an MOU. Unfortunately, I think that a lot of this has gone on deaf ears, and it's been very, very frustrating. So we are trying to do whatever we can to get a hold of Union Pacific, and so that we can take the responsibility to help clean it up.
They tell me that they've been out a couple times, and every time they come out to clean it, it's $40,000 because they have to have HVAC units, you know, because of the AIDS and all the, you know, disease that's out there. We just found out yesterday that there's a project called the Karma Box Project. And I don't know if any of you have heard of that, but they're coming this Saturday and they're going to initiate a cleanup. So we're sort of excited about that. But anyway, I just wanted you to know.
So we work with Karma Box a lot.
Okay.
And you will get to meet Grant.
Right.
And they do a tremendous job. And I want to make sure we have your contact information so that we can keep you aware of what progress we're making.
That would be great.
On our side.
Yeah.
But it would also be helpful if we had some letters of support to
Yes.
Union Pacific.
Okay.
Thank you so
Great.
much.
Thank you all.
And John, can I ask, is Kathleen your wife?
No,
Oh,
Kathleen
a
owns the
neighbor.
building right across
So
the
she
street.
reached out very early to me this morning. I know she's sick
She
today.
has the flu, otherwise she would have been.
Understand. And so we chatted with Karma Box very early this morning about a cleanup.
Right.
And I think we're going to have some positive movement on Saturday.
Yeah, we're looking forward for that.
So we're aware of the situation.
Okay,
We're working
Mr.
on
Reese,
it.
thank you very much.
Thank you so
Thank you all
much.
for your time.
Jacob Dorman, followed by Damian Cole.
Greetings. My name is Jacob. Excuse me. My name is Jacob Dorman. And I'm here to speak about the abandonment of Bell Street in front of the AME Church. I teach African American history at the University of Nevada, Reno, but I'm here representing myself, not the university. But my comments today are informed by the fact that I am co-directing a project to document the use of racist covenants in Reno. In only 6 months, we've documented over 5,000 of these, and I think it speaks to the fact that Reno historically has, you might say, abandoned the African American community. In 1904, the chief of police actually put out an order that all vagrant or idle African American men should be rounded up and put onto trains, and that actually happened. But a number of African Americans said, we're not going. We are citizens of this town. This is a good town, and we're going to stay. And only 3 years later, in 1907, the Bethel AME Church was founded on that site. So I think it's a wonderful symbol, not just of the fact that we have an African-American community here, but we have an African-American community that has persisted in the face of persistent racial discrimination. As you might know, racist covenants were used from the 1920s through the 1960s, even though they were ruled illegal in 1948. They were ruled unenforceable by the Supreme Court in 1948 for violating the 14th Amendment. So, Langston Hughes visited the Bethel AME Church. It's probably, I can't think of a more important landmark in terms of African American history that we have in this community. And I think it would be a real shame if we abandoned this church and this street in the last few days of Black History Month, especially. So I am heartened that that we're going to take more time to consider this motion. I would certainly support the withdrawal of the motion. I'm heartened that the Jacobs Corporation is attempting now to work with the congregation. We've abandoned so much of our history in downtown, and that can never be undone. Once you build a building or move a building, you can never put it back. So this is really a historic place. Reno is a great city with a lot of history, but we often don't pay enough attention to that history and to the built environment. So I really hope that the members of the council will see to it to save and preserve this essential piece of Reno's history. Thank you.
Dr. Dorman, my liaison is going to get with you outside if we can just exchange information so I can set up a time to meet with you.
Terrific. Thank you.
And Madam Mayor, may I comment too? I just wanted to comment that I've known about these racist covenants for quite some time, been very concerned. Even the community that I live in has them on the buildings. I was very inspired by Commissioner Alexis Hill donated money and offered to go through the process to remove these covenants. And I was just wondering, Madam Mayor, I'd love to put on a future agenda item that potentially through our Historic Resources Commission might be the right avenue to do something similar to what Ms. Hill did. She can't pay for it all herself, right? And the county can't. But maybe we could start our own project here, possibly through Historic Resources, with some of our internally directed council funds to continue or expand upon her initiative. It's just a thought, but I don't believe it's, that it's taken fire yet, so to speak. In other words, I think it's happening here and there, but not on any kind of regional basis. So it's just something to talk about, a future agenda item. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Just so you know, there is now a process through SB 368 that was passed in June that allows individual homeowners to remove racist covenants, but other counties like Los Angeles County is actually using a fee on filing to have a private company come in and do a mass redaction on a mass level.
What do you mean fee on filing? Filing what?
So on filing new deeds or in terms of property exchanges.
Like transfer of deeds.
Transfer of property, so they're using that to actually go through and redact these deeds on a holistic kind of mass level. But I think anything that the city could do, even just to acknowledge that this has been a problem in the past and to take steps to apologize and to help to redact this so that future homeowners don't have to sign off on a racist covenant. And I think that would be a wonderful.
Well, and I just want to point out for the benefit of the whole council, and it's not just about either Black, African American. I mean, the covenants are no Hispanics, unless you're working in the property, no Jews, and the list goes on.
Asians.
No Asians, exactly. And in my community, we have all, Blacks, Hispanic, Asians, Jews, all in my community living with covenants that say they can't live there. So it's a real thing. Okay.
Damian Cole, followed by Noah Bristol.
Good idea.
Good morning, Madam Mayor. Testing? Okay, good. Good morning, Madam Mayor, City Council. The annexation by Jacobs Entertainment of properties needs to stop. It needs to be fought. Their ignorance and disregard for local community and history is mind-blowing. The city granted the alley abandonment for a building that houses Asian and Latino businesses on 5th Street. That accesses the parking lot in the back. El Tacos Tijuana was kicked out of Jacobs' building. They destroyed the Greek church, the Greek restaurant that was on 5th Street, the building that housed that. Low-cost housing for his, that Jacobs promised to the city is actually going to only be for his employees only. The building that is being built on, the apartment building that's going to be on 2nd and Arlington, originally was named after a Nazi sympathizer until someone pointed out to him, George Claude was not a good guy. Low-cost lodging for the entire disenfranchised community of Reno has been destroyed. We're talking about those rat-infested weekly motels, throwing hundreds of people out on the street. The only building that seems to really be saved is the Gold and Silver Inn, because, my God, the community was outcrying saying, what's going to happen to that? The Gibson Apartments is also Jacobs' property, which is on the corner of 2nd and Ralston. This church that the abandonment is going to be happening on for the public access way is in the Poundings edition, but it was not included in the Poundings Conservation District because the Conservation District boundary was south of 2nd Street. I think the City Council should annex and expand the boundaries of the Conservation District for Poundings to include these buildings that are going to be affected by the constant onslaught of development in the name of money for the public, for the city good. Rest in peace, Bob Barker. Corporate takeover of the people's property is happening not just in this city, but throughout the entire country. Andrew Callahan just made a wonderful documentary showing what's happening in North and South Philly due to Temple University's constant gentrification of the downtown corridor. It's happening here, people, and this needs to stop. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Damian.
Noah Bristol, followed by Darcy Phillips via Zoom.
Just taking a moment to make some eye contact because last time I was here, I read so fast that I forgot to do that. It's good to see all of you this morning. For the record, my name is Noah Bristol. I am an artist, and I live here downtown, and I choose not to own a car. My comments pertain to Agenda Item C1. Jacobs Entertainment seeks an abandonment of part of Bell Street. Their stated intention is to knock down 3 existing buildings, one of which is on the National Register of Historic Places. In order to expand the surface parking lot, we shouldn't have let them build in the first place. Once the land is removed from public ownership, its use reverts to whatever the adjacent zoning allows, and any subsequent use that adheres to that zoning could proceed without any additional public review. This is a mistake. Any discussion of what the land will actually be used for appears to not be a part of this conversation. There is nowhere in the process to question, restrict, or incentivize the developer to build anything in particular. The only redress is what we are doing in this chamber right now and what the code stipulates. But if 1,100 new parking spaces across 3 huge surface parking lot dead zones can be built and still adhere to code, then the code needs to change. When working with developers, what we do not ask for, we will not get. So we had better be clear about what kind of place we want downtown to be, and we had better get their agreement to build such a place in writing. Voting to deny Jacobs their abandonment request requires demonstrating material injury to the people who use the area. That's not hard to demonstrate. A parking lot is designed to store automobiles, the #1 cause of pediatric death in America, and wouldn't you know it, there is a high school across the street. Secondly, what is the tax revenue per acre of a surface parking lot? How does that compare to the tax revenue per acre of a small building occupied by a local small business? Take Shifters, for example, the bar down the block from the proposed Bell Street parking lot crater. I don't have exact numbers because I am new to this, but typically what we find in these comparisons is that for tax revenue per acre, the small local establishment blows the parking lot out of the water every time. So the question becomes, do we here at City Council like having enough money to do all the things we want to do for our wonderful city? These choices add up. Thirdly, everything in the built environment sends a message by the way it looks and how these places make us feel when we are in them. What message does block after block of surface parking lots send? By paving downtown for parking lots, we are telling visitors and ourselves that Reno isn't valuable, interesting, or beautiful enough for anything other than parking cars. When was the last time any of you took a vacation to a parking lot? Never. Nobody wants to spend time in a parking lot. So why do we keep using our prime downtown real estate to build places nobody wants to be in? Surface parking lots are dead zones, and downtown Reno is littered with them, but it doesn't have to be this way. We need infill development, not more knockdowns and surface lots. So my call to action for council this morning is that I respectfully urge you to deny Jacobs Entertainment their abandonment request for Bell Street. And since I have 20 seconds left or so, I just want to say that I may come off as a little bit spicy, but it's because I love this town as much as you do. I could choose to live anywhere in the world, and I choose to live here because I like it here. And so that's why I'm so impassioned about making a downtown that people enjoy coming to, visiting, and living in. So thank you for all the work you do, and thank you for your time.
Thanks, Spicy Noah. Appreciate it. Next.
Darcy Phillips via Zoom.
Good morning. Hi, everyone on the council. I'm Darcy Phillips. I'm the executive director at Keep Truckee Meadows Beautiful. We are so grateful to the city of Reno for all of your ongoing support. And we are here today because of item B21. We just wanted to offer support and promise that we will continue to work to clean up all the litter and green waste in this lovely community in which we live. Last year, we cleaned up about 300,000 pounds of litter and green waste in Washoe County. And we just thank you for your ongoing support, and we look forward to working with the Church of Latter-day Saints on these cleanups in South Reno. Thank you.
Thank you, Darcy. And since this is my item, my donation, I just want to thank you for the work that you do. It's incredible how you partner with so many organizations throughout our community. I specifically highlighted the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in this particular case, because every year they have done a series of cleanups, and they are willing to work in any ward. They have worked in my ward several times. They have participated in tree planting. They've participated in cleanups. I wanted to support you in your efforts to support them. And one thing that they do, which I think is a model for our whole community, is they participate in something called the 9/11 Day of Service. And so in recognition of what happened on September 11th, they will adopt a project throughout Reno and commit that day, or a day close to 9/11. If 9/11's in the middle of the week, they'll pick a close weekend day. But that is what my intention here was. Hopefully you can work with them, but if not them, an additional group in furtherance of 9/11 or another special event in our community. So thank you so much for what you do, Darcy.
Thank you.
KTMB has been one of our long-standing partners, and we appreciate what you do.
We are grateful for that. Have a great day. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
All right. Madam Clerk?
All right, Madam Vice Mayor, with that, we have no additional public comments registered. For the record, we did receive 6 comments, which were general in nature or not directly associated with an agenda item prior to 4 p.m. on February 24th. These comments were written and or voicemail correspondence received via our reno.gov online public comment form or by email to our office. Copies of these comments have been distributed to the Reno City Council and are available to the public on the reno.gov meeting portal. 1 letter of opposition and 5 letters of concerns. Again, those have been distributed. And if you give me 1 second, it seems like we might have somebody that we missed.
Okay.
All right, Madam Vice Mayor, we're moving on to item A4, approval of the agenda.
All right. May I have a motion to approve the agenda? Mr. Manager, do you have any changes for us, sir?
I have one. So as you've heard quite a bit this morning, item C1 isn't quite ready to go. The applicant has waived the 65-day review period, and they'd like to bring it back at a later date. So my recommendation is that we pull that off today's agenda. They'll renotice it when they're ready to come back.
So, just 1 sec. So let me understand. When you say waive the 65-day, there's no set time to come back?
There's not a set time to come back, which is why they'll have to renotice it, but what the code requires for an abandonment is that we hold a public hearing within 65 days. And that's a process requirement that is afforded to the applicant to make sure that they get a decision on the application.
And have you heard from the applicant? I mean, several people in the audience and Councilmember Breckus mentioned withdrawing it and starting fresh. Is that an option, or what do you recommend there?
So my recommendation is that they go have the conversations that they've committed to today. They see if they're fruitful, they see what adjustments they can make, and that they come back with their live application. I don't think they need to withdraw it. They're committed to having those conversations, and we'll see where they go.
Okay. And if they did, just following this thought process through, if they did have a significant change, is it still the same application, or do they have to modify the application? How does that work?
So where you see these things, they get modified all the time when they get to the council level. And so that's where we're at this point, is I think having those conversations. The Planning Commission already delved into this conversation. Obviously, you have the staff review. And so now it's just whether or not it's going to move forward through the lens of council review, whether or not it's something that the community can support. And those are the conversations that they've committed to having here
Well,
today.
I heard them say that it might be a good sign, a good show of good faith, but I don't know, how the council feels about that, so. Councilmember Breckus. Please.
Yeah. Mr. Thornley, you said the Planning Commission saw this?
I may have made a mistake there, so
Yeah.
it was not.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Planning Commission, and this was over my objections when we redid the code, does not see abandonments. On the one hand, I'd like to force the issue of have the hearing right now, because it obviously has the support of our manager and all the technical staff that reviewed. Okay, but based upon the history going on now 7 years of Mr. Jacobs in this council, delivering every ask incrementally to them, that's a roll of the dice I'm not willing to take. Okay, but I think I want to call out that I believe it is bad faith of Mr. Gordon to sit here and read a statement about all Jacobs' intents to be a good partner and then say, but on my back pocket, I have a staff recommendation for approval, and we're going to go off and have all these meetings and everything. The good faith gesture is to withdraw the request, and it's not on the table, and it comes back at another day, and maybe our manager looks into it in the context of all the other Jacob approvals that are sitting on the table, namely the development agreement, which is where this thing should have been embedded in the first place. So make no mistake about it. As someone who's been here for the whole Jacob story, this little hanging out for a little indefinite period is a gift to Jacobs with a recommendation of support. The best thing is for this council to ask Mr. Garrett to withdraw it completely. Anything less is, once again, allowing them to do whatever they want And that's just, they've gotten everything they've asked for. And it's wrong. It's been wrong. And here we are at the last, one of the final, because I don't see what else is on the table, pieces of cultural significance with all the people who have been displaced, with the pass by the council to implement the downtown plan and do a planning process for the Northwest Quadrant, everything, a development agreement without giving them so many entitlements to sewer credits, that exceptions that other people don't have. I don't see why anything else will be different. The issue is Mr. Gordon needs to withdraw the request.
Madam Vice Mayor,
We're
Madam
on
Mayor.
the agenda.
The,
Oh, good.
the development code allows any applicant one continuance as a matter of course.
Yeah.
And so varying from that process, I think, would be an issue for us. And the
That's
Jacobs
us.
Corporation.
I mean, they can do whatever they want.
And they have requested a continuance.
Okay.
And so for purposes of order of the meeting today, we can either get to that point and the council can vote on the continuance, which
Okay.
is already afforded to them in the code,
Yes.
or we can say right now we're going to pull it off the agenda and we'll renotice it when it's ready to come
Well,
back.
if I could be,
No, hold on one second. You've spoken. Let others speak right now, okay?
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Gordon.
Entertainment. First, so we have a clear record, a member of the public at public comment said this application included demolishing the church. That is not true whatsoever. Secondly, in regards to this withdrawal request, unfortunately, the Ward 1 member is misinformed. This is her district. It would have been great if she would meet with us and work this out, but she never does. As the mayor knows and Councilman Reese knows, the church is not opposed to the entire application. So we could move forward with a portion of it that they're not opposed to while we continue to negotiate with them. So there's no reason to withdraw the application today. We're sitting here in good faith saying let's postpone it for an undetermined period of time. We look forward to working with the pastor and bringing something back in current or likely modified form or partial form for your input and eventual vote. So we respectfully request to continue it today for an undetermined period of time so we can work with our neighbors. Thank you.
I appreciate that. I do want to say, I think it's always important to have those conversations. I think it's important to work together. This world has become incredibly adversarial, as we've seen. I've learned that I can get much more for my community whenever I'm sitting down, I'm communicating, I'm working with others, instead of creating things that are divisive. I think some of those comments from the ward representative are very, very concerning because she hasn't been at the table for anything that we have worked on in any capacity. And that has been unfortunate, and it's a disservice to everyone in that ward. And so, and I take it, I take it to heart because I've watched everything. I will also say this. There's a lot of discussion that happens before even a project comes to council. It takes a long time. The other thing I would also say is I don't think people realize when something gets on the agenda, it's not that the council put it there. It's someone put in an application. So when it comes on, that doesn't mean that, yes, that's happening. It's time for discussion. There's a process. We want to follow that process. And it sounds great. Yes, I want to hear it today. I want to hear it today. But I think that's also a disservice to PDEBs and what we're trying to accomplish. And if we can't get there, then we'll bring it back and the council can vote. But I don't think that that's going to help in any capacity. So, and that honestly could cause a lot of harm for what she's trying to accomplish. So I don't think that that's advantageous. I know that some people want to argue and fight all the time. I just don't think that that's the best way to always approach things. Today is tough in this world. No, I always let you speak, you remind me. But today is tough, and I think it's important when we are here that we're trying to work with each other in solutions and have kindness and civility. There is so much out in this world, and so I just say let's start with community first and work with others, and then if we can't get there and take, then it's a different approach. But to step out and say, I want to hear it today to cause something that becomes very adversarial, I don't think that helps in any capacity. Pastor Debs, did you? I see you back there.
And Madam Mayor, I just want to ask our manager, I mean, we're not voting now, we're deciding what's on the agenda, and I think it was informative, but we still have to visit it at item C1. Isn't that correct, to take action?
It's my understanding that that is one course. The other course is because it would be renoticed, and you're not just continuing it to a date certain, I don't believe you actually have to, no.
Okay, so just, does our staff just accept their waiver of the timeframes and it never, I don't recall that we did it that way before, so that's all I'm asking, the process question.
We normally don't, because we normally continue, most of the time, we continue to a date certain. When we don't continue to a date certain and we do it indefinitely, we just pull it off the agenda.
Okay, yeah.
Madam Mayor, can I
Yes, please.
interject? So I'd like to ask our legal counsel a question. So I don't totally understand. I want us to focus on the point we're at the meeting. The meeting point
exactly.
is about the approval of the agenda.
Right.
The manager suggested that the recommendation was to remove item C1 at the request of the applicant. And now we're at this question where we're asking about the effect of a withdrawal. And it sounded to me like the withdrawal would occur and potentially has waived the 65-day requirement, which means that if it doesn't come back in 65 days, it has the same legal effect as a withdrawal. So I'm trying not to mince
No,
words.
he's saying no.
Hold on a second. I'm asking our legal counsel to opine what is the clearest path forward on approval of an agenda item. That is not about the substance of the abandonment, just
Right.
procedurally, how do we operate in these chambers? I don't like theater. I want to operate under the assumption that we have some rules in this arena, and what are those rules?
So for the record, John Shipman from the City Attorney's Office. No, I think it's as the city manager explained. So you're at a point in the meeting where you can, take this off the agenda at the request of the applicant. They waive the 65 days, and it can come back, and it's not like other instances where you've seen this where, the applicant didn't want to pay for the renoticing. I mean, that's going to be happening here. So this is, again, as the city manager recounted, it's totally inappropriate.
So, Mr. Shipman, that is the real issue. It's about whether or not the applicant is willing to pay for renoticing.
Correct. Yeah.
Not about whether or not it has some legal effect about the staff report attached to the original application.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And a follow-up, if I may, Madam Mayor, to our attorneys. But a statement was also made by Councilmember Reese that if they didn't meet the 65 days, it was somehow, there was an action taken,
Well,
but
that's
that's
the
not
same
true, right?
as a withdrawal, because then they have to renotice it after 65 days, if I understood the advice of our legal counsel
Well, they have to
correctly.
renotice it, but I thought you said it would be denied or something if it
No.
didn't.
No,
didn't use that
so the way it works is that it has to be adjudicated or come to public hearing within 65 days, and that has been waived by the applicant. So again, this item would be continued to a later date, subject to renoticing for a separate agenda. So.
Okay.
Madam Mayor? Madam Mayor?
Go right ahead.
We're in a time period where we cancel people. And I'm really tired of cancel culture. I'm tired of silencing people. I'm tired of fighting. While I am absolutely opposed of the abandonment of a portion if we can't negotiate. But what we're asking is, let us negotiate. Let us sit at the same table,
Yeah.
human to human, and let's figure out something. We're not looking at arguing. We're not looking at, oh my gosh, you're gonna sweep something under the fence, because Jacobs Entertainment also wants to do some progressive things here. I don't know all the other crap that has happened with Jacobs. I don't care about it. I care about my church, and I care about my block, and I care about my history, and I care about this community. And so if Jacobs Entertainment is willing to sit across the table and discuss, because he knows that I'm not moving my church. I'm just not going to do that. He knows that There is a Hispanic congregation that has been there for more times than I have lived here that will be negatively impacted if they do what they're going to do, and that's to take away 21 parking spaces. They understand that. They heard my heart yesterday. It was Mr. Jacobs that said, why don't we do this? Which benefits Bethel, and it benefits him. And so I would say, let's do a continuance. Let's see what happens, because I still will adapt if he's not willing to change. Clear?
Well said, Pastor.
Okay? So, you know what? In the words of Rodney King, can we all get along?
Yeah, I love you. I love you so much.
And that's all I'm trying to say is I'm happy with, I'm going to trust the integrity of Jacobs Entertainment. I'm going to trust the integrity of Mr. Gordon, who says that we're going to get it at the table. But best be sure, this entire building will be filled if he's full of crap.
Yeah.
Is that fair? Is that fair, Jenny?
No.
I'll speak when it's my turn.
Yes.
Okay.
When
My
it's,
apologies,
thank you.
but
No, I just
hope
want to
that you
make
heard
sure.
my heart.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
Pastor Deb, can you state your name for the record?
Reverend Dr. Deborah Whitlock Lax.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Pastor Debs. My fear is that it really forces adversarial action. My colleague wants to force adversarial action. I have learned from sitting up here long enough that it never helps, it never serves anyone for the better interest of this community. I'm sorry, it might sound really good whenever it comes out, and that's just not really how it works. And not to mention, people don't understand what happens to behind the scenes when we sit down, we meet with developers, we meet with people who are interested in opening businesses in our community. There's a lot of no going on. There's a lot of negotiating. How do we get there? How do we do this? You don't get to see that. You get to see like this very short window of what we do up here. But there is a lot of care in this community, and we're lucky to have a community that's small enough to where we still can communicate, but I don't want it to be overshadowed by someone trying to force adversarial action. If the council took action today, how would we know that that wouldn't force something that you don't want? We don't know. And so we've got to continue to work together and respect the direction that you want to go, Pastor. So I appreciate that. But I also would say it's tough whenever you do have a ward member that has never met. Matter of fact, I meet a lot of times with people in that ward because this council member won't. And that's tough. It's really tough. And so I would just ask for some cooperation and some kindness and to, don't make it about you. Make it about the community. You might not like it. Listen, there's a lot of times people don't agree with me, but there's times that we can agree, and that's a good thing, that we don't always agree on everything. I just believe that makes us unique and different. But I also believe, too, that we all can agree that ice cream tastes good. So there's certain things that we can agree on at times, right? Not everything is going to be things that we disagree on. But if we do, let's do it respectfully and not adversarially. And that's what I would ask. All right, Councilmember Breckus, I'm going to ask that you go ahead and give your comments. And be kind and considerate,
I will
please.
support the continuance, but make no question about it. This council, individuals have good enough relationships with Jacobs and, who would put us in a tough situation here. And Madam Mayor, please, I didn't interrupt you. And it would not be any harm for them to sit up and say, we want to withdraw, because what it is listen to this talk. They've got the waiver, their rights of a waiver. It's not a development request because it's not related to their private property, okay? They can easily pull this off and have this discussion without a time pressure on. They're not willing to do that. And let's talk about the whole story. Here we are at two parties, a very significant cultural institution and Mr. Jacobs going off doing their thing. That's not how you plan for a part of the city. And this council has, with Mr. Jacobs, basically given over a whole part of town to whatever he wants and whoever he can buy out and whatever property can come his way. This is our downtown plan. We did this in 2017. The consultant, and we adopted this, said there's a poor part of the city, the northwest quadrant, you need to plan for, where everyone is not, quote, behind the scenes like was just referenced of these two people, but in a process. This council took a pass on that because Jacobs said they don't want to lose control of the planning area. So that's how they've been able to get street, parking lots, abandonments, development rights for sewer, because this council prefers to do things in closed doors, not in public doors where everyone can have a piece. No one's here to speak any longer because their motels have been turned down, and they are either, you know, who knows the fate of those folks. We would have had a whole community in a dialogue, but this council never wanted to go there. I will be putting in the record on this item for everyone to see the reference in this plan to doing a Northwest Quadrant plan where everyone has a voice. Bethel would have been brought in 6 years ago to talk and let everyone know how important they are to that area. I'll also put in the letter that documents from a statement from an assistant city manager how Jacobs didn't want the plan, told the council not to do the plan, even though it was budgeted, because they didn't want to lose control of the planning area. And that's where we're at right now, with surface parking lots and basically a non-performing, non-productive part of town to this community's vision. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Can you repeat that?
You can go back and read the...
What did you say?
I just said a lot. You can go back and read whatever you want or review it. I'm not going to repeat everything.
Okay, well, I'm going to just disagree with you only because you have not had any conversations, not just on this project, but a lot of other projects, whether it's business, other things that transpire in the city. I meet with anyone that reaches out to me, and I would ask that you would do the same because it is a disservice to what we're trying to accomplish in the city. You cannot come up here and plan a city in an 8-hour council meeting. I'm sorry.
You can if we had done the Northwest Quadrant instead of all your behind-the-scenes meetings with Mr. Jacobs and everyone else.
Nothing's behind the scenes, Councilmember Breckus, and you just don't want to do the work and meet with people. I've been meeting with all of the people you won't meet with. So anyway, we're going to move forward. So back to you, Madam Clerk. Where are we at?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you so much.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Moving on to item A5, approval of the minutes.
All right, may I get a motion? I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Madam Clerk, back at you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're moving on to our consent agenda. We do have public comment on this item.
Do you want us to pull items?
Oh, sorry. Hold on one second. I'm going to start with Councilwoman Dewar, Vice Mayor. Go ahead.
Sure. I'd like to pull item B12, which is about Black history and a historic resource survey that the city council is budgeting.
Perfect.
And I'd also like to pull B17, which is with respect to affordable housing project, Vintage at Stoker.
Great.
And I think that's it.
All right, awesome. Okay, go ahead. Councilwoman Ebert.
Thank you. I'd like to pull items B1,
Okay.
B4, B7, B9, B10, and B14.
Okay. Perfect. Councilman Reese.
Nothing, Madam
Councilwoman Taylor.
None, Madam Mayor.
Councilman Martinez.
Mayor. Nothing from me, Madam Mayor.
Councilwoman Breckus.
B15, please.
Okay. All right, may I get a motion?
Oh, Madam Mayor, can we do public comment before that? And can I just repeat the items to make sure I've got them all correct?
Yes.
So we're pulling items B1, 4, 7, 9, 10, 12, 14, 15, and 17. And before the vote, if we could do public comment, we have Sam Gettle, followed by Mike Worm.
Okay, perfect. Sam.
If you're a participant in Zoom and would like to make public comment, please raise your hand at this time.
Hi, Sam. Come on up.
I'm here on B18, and I'm thrilled to be here. It's been a long while. Thanks for everybody
Sam,
on
can you
the
just state
council.
your name for the record?
Sam Gettle.
Thank you so much.
I'm actually thrilled to be here to be able to bring this issue to conclusion. You'll make the U.S. Post Office happy.
Yay.
Amazon, UPS, FedEx, process servers, the police, everybody. And so I'm here on behalf of myself and the 4 tenants living adjacent to me that we own the properties. I am seeking the ability to have the availability to serve to services associated with 911 consisting of fire, police, and medical emergencies. I'm also seeking dependable mail and package delivery services so that we can receive medical supplies and other important issues. The latest example of the ongoing problem took place on Thanksgiving weekend when the police were not able to find one of the residents of my tenant who had called a 911 for a domestic violence issue. So this has been going on for 20 years. So I am here to underscore the only way forward, because of the digital world, is the alley has to have a name. I did not pick the name, but I'm happy with the name because we're getting a resolution. And I'm hoping that the council can come together so we can have basic services, and I thank all of you for that.
And I think, didn't you come a while back?
Yes, and it was pulled.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'm glad to see this is happening.
Yes, me
That's
too. I'm glad
fantastic.
to be here in front of you.
Okay, good. Well, thank you, sir.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Just speaking to, and I probably should have pulled this, but this was a very intentional from the Historic Resources Commission. You know, the name was proposed to be another thing.
Yes.
But they did the research. They found the old creamery was the historic, location.
Yes.
Was on this alley. And I was just so pleased, and I mentioned this to our staff earlier. I was so pleased that the process ended up in such a good place, where we're recognizing our history. And often it's good to have names, have a geographic reference or a historical reference, rather than just a random, horse street or something, something that isn't relevant to something. So I'm so pleased that we can get here.
Thank you for comments. The original application was trying to be as apolitical as possible.
Right.
This isn't about, this isn't about anything behind a street name. It's just getting.
I know, just any name, I know.
Just any name.
I got you.
A alley.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, Ally.
Okay.
Thanks so much. I'm glad it's back.
Mike Worm, followed by Jay Howard.
Ah, Mr. Worm, good to see you.
Good morning, Madam Mayor and Council. I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you. We are on this consent agenda as for a potential donation to the Boys and Girls Club with discretionary funds. Especially want to thank Councilwoman Taylor for taking the time to come visit the club and hear our story and take a little tour of the project that we have at 9th Street. And really just thank you all for all that you do. I mean, anyone that's willing to stand in leadership role today and listen to all sides and most sides that don't want to agree and try to do what's best for Reno, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. And just to highlight for a second some of our longstanding partnerships with the City of Reno and the Boys and Girls Club, which together we've worked to do some incredible things for kids in this community. Currently over 500 youth are enrolled in our Boys and Girls Club from Reno alone, 12,000 across northern Nevada. And in my time there, March will be my 29th year at the Boys and Girls Club, and I will say tens of thousands of kids have come through. And, some of the most highlighted, and no chance do I have to mention all the people or the partnerships we've done with the City of Reno, but really want to highlight our Neal Road collaboration and create a safe haven for those kids every day in that community, and are probably our most deserving community in the Reno-Sparks area. So thank you for that continued partnership. I don't want to go back too far because we're not in the pandemic anymore, but your support during the pandemic to help fund food and allow us to do our part in helping make sure that no kids during that time went hungry. So thank you for that. I don't know if you're aware, but every year your city department, building department, they work with contractors in town and do a toy drive every year for the Boys and Girls Club. And thousands of kids get toys because of that effort and their push. And Chris Pingree and many others are part of that. But that same group works with us regularly, and we've got a number of projects that we've been able to pull off in the last couple of years. In particular in Reno, 2 daycare projects that have allowed us to open up about 150 new spots in the last 6 months to kids in northern Nevada. And very proud, while it's just across the border in Sparks, yesterday we opened up another center with 110 more spots in the city of Sparks on El Rancho. So, but very excited about how well the city group works to make sure things like that get through in appropriate manner, under proper guidelines, to make sure that we're providing services for kids. And then not just what's in the past, but really excited to work with your new Parks and Rec Director, Nathan, and some new ideas that we have that we think we can work together and expand services to more kids in northern Nevada. So the project that I did want to mention quickly that Councilwoman Taylor looked at, we were able to remodel some space in our East 9th Street Club, hopefully our last remodel on that club because it's a monster, but provide some professional workspaces for, I want you to think about the Boys and Girls Club, I believe, not as this big nonprofit, but as a group that works with me, about 20 of us that work to provide backroom services for small businesses in all northern Nevada. So today we do services not only in Washoe County, our primary county, but also in Lyon County, Pershing County, Knight County, Lincoln County, Humboldt County, and White Pine County. And it's because of the work that you guys do to help us do our work that allows us to reach so many kids. So thank you very much for that.
No, thank you for what you do. Your efforts have been incredible, and all of the good work that you provide for so many kids that really don't even have a place to go or parents to go to right after school. I mean, you guys have done a phenomenal job.
Oh, thank you.
Just incredible, incredible. 29 years, huh?
Seems like a long time.
My
It is a long time.
goodness.
It does not just seems like. It is.
Oh my, you're not planning on going anywhere soon, are you?
Eventually, whether I want to or not, I'm sure. So,
Mike, thank you so much. You're amazing.
Thank you.
Huge fan.
Jay Howard, followed by Marie Baxter via Zoom.
Good morning to members of the council, and thanks so much as usual for the time this morning. My name's Jay Howard, and I'm the program coordinator for Truckee Meadows Trails, which is a relatively new trail effort planning and support program that we've put together here in the region to do just that, support the planning, proper construction of trails, and connectivity in the area that we need so badly with trails. I'm here, so I should mention that I'm also an employee and supported by the Truckee Meadows Parks Foundation. They're a great group of people, and I really appreciate the administrative and fiscal support that they've provided for the program here. I'm here this morning today to just voice my support for item B22, which is the Virginia Range Trail Corridor Project. And that is kind of a visionary project that Vice Mayor Dewar has had for a number of years now and came to us with so that we could move forward with this project. So the Virginia Range project is like I mentioned, it's a feasibility and planning project with the goal of creating trail and pathway connectivity in the Damonte Hills section of the Virginia Range. So that's all of those hills over above the Damonte Ranch developed area in southeast Reno. So early on in the planning process, something I'm working on right now is a regional trails plan that brings together all the trails community partners that we have in the Truckee Meadows to work together towards these goals. And early in that planning process, I too saw that area over there that was sort of void of trails, the system trails that we need to have in place, not just social trails and roads, but the properly built trail system that should be in place over there to provide that resource to the folks that live over there and the people that are in this community in general. So again, this is a passion project for me as well, and I really appreciate the support of the City of Reno and Vice Mayor Dewar for this project, and hope that this item that's on agenda today can be approved and help us move forward with this project.
Thanks for all your work,
Yeah.
Jay. It's
No,
amazing.
Thank you.
Marie Baxter via Zoom.
Hello, I have a terrible cold and laryngitis, so I will keep this short.
No.
Submitted my comments publicly in the chat or in the email as well. But which is why I'm not there, but I just really wanted to express our extreme appreciation to all of you on the council for the many decades of support, actually, that you have provided to Catholic Charities of Northern Nevada. Marie Baxter, CEO, Catholic Charities of Northern Nevada, for the record. And we so appreciate being included with B19 and again, all that you've done, again, across the decades, but in particular, during the pandemic and in these years since. So we're grateful for the support and appreciate it. And I will save you listening to the rest of my voice. So take care. Thank you.
And get better.
Before you leave us, Madam
Yeah, and
Mayor,
I
if
didn't want to breathe on any of you, so I'll stay in my office where the door is closed.
I didn't pull the item. I mean, this is again, some council donation, but I'm so grateful for all the work that you've done, whether it's helping to work with our unhoused population, feed people, provide resources, clothing. I mean, you name it, you have been there for the community, and I really wanted to recognize that as we sort of round out our end of this portion of our giving, so to speak, for donations. But thank you for everything you do, and thank you, my goodness, for making the effort to show here today on Zoom. I mean, I couldn't do it. So speaking.
I wouldn't miss it, so thank you very much. So
Speaking
take
through a
care.
cold, and as ill as you are, it really takes some effort, some doing. But again, just as we have so many great partners in our community, we just heard from Big Brothers Big Sisters. We're hearing from you. We've heard from the Parks Foundation. I mean, we couldn't get our business done. We just don't have enough money in the city of Reno to cover all the needs. So we are interdependent with our nonprofits. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, Madam Mayor, with that, we have no additional public comment. Additionally, we have not received any correspondence. So I'm looking for a motion to approve all items that have not yet been pulled.
So moved.
Okay, all right.
Second.
Just 1 second. Madam Clerk, I just want to go through this really quick.
Okay.
B1, B4, B7, B9, B10, B14, B12, B17, B15.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you so much. So I have a motion, I believe, from Councilman Reese, a second by Councilwoman Dewar. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. See, there are some things we can agree on. Okay. Hi, Lance.
Morning.
Good morning.
Mayor, council members, how you doing?
Hi, Lance. So I had a question about this. This is for a privileged business license for alcohol and catering. In this location, like, there's a sign on the front of the building that says Dynamic Drywall and Construction. So is this going to be two businesses in the same building? It's going to be drywall and catering in the same?
Lance Ferrato, Director of Business Licensing, for the record. Yes, that's correct. It's actually a building where this alcohol caterer in particular is just providing dry, I want to call it dry goods, but canned alcohol. So it's just a storage area where all of their product will be held.
Okay.
So yeah, they're operating out of that business as well.
Okay, so they don't have like a kitchen
That's
or
right.
anything
It's-
like that?
it's
It's
not a
just
kitchen, no.
storage for alcohol?
That's right.
Okay, so that was my question. It was just kind of a weird, looking conglomeration of facilities. So thank you. That was it.
No problem.
Motion to approve.
Motion from Councilwoman Ebert, second from Councilman Reese. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Okay. We are at item B4. Councilwoman Ebert.
Okay, so this particular location we had voted on this in September of 2023. This is a location that wants to have slot machines, and it's right across from a high school. So just wanted to find out, has anything changed at this location? They have any additional justification as to why it should be allowed, in proximity to a high school?
Right. Again, Lance Ferrato, Director of Business Licensing for the record. As you said, this application came before you last September. It was denied. The general consensus or the discussion around the item was that it was the proximity of the high school that was of concern. Just to briefly remind you of what the application is, it's for 4 slot machines in an existing convenience store. The state analysis from the Gaming Control Board and the Nevada Gaming Commission, they discussed the proximity of schools. They considered a condition, deemed it was not necessary, so they approved it unanimously with no conditions. Myself and state officials have spoken to the principal. They have no concerns of what's going on over there. And also what was discussed is that there's a 7-Eleven that's also across the street, and it's had gaming for nearly 40 years with no issues to speak of from the local authorities or the state authorities. So the applicant feels that they'd like to revet this item and discuss it again and see if they can get a favorable outcome. And so that you know that there are 2 employees from the company that are here and willing to answer questions if necessary.
Okay, so you mentioned there's another location that is also operating with slot machines. Can you show me on the map, like, where they all are in proximity to the high school?
I think I could do that. Hold on one second. So, if you can see with the clarity there, where the little shaded area is, the little red shaded area.
I think you should point with your
So,
pen or something.
right about here.
Okay.
See that?
Yep.
That's the market itself. Just north is the parking lot of Reno High School. And then just to the east, where it says NC across there, the building just south of that, the little white top on the corner of California.
There's several buildings with white tops. Can you?
This one right here.
Okay, so they're further away from the high school.
Maybe 100 feet.
Okay, and they're on the
From
other
the
side of the
parcel.
street too,
You're correct.
right? So they are further away. There is more of a barrier for the kids to get to that location. So they're more likely going to that 7-Eleven. Like if they're walking home from school to get a snack or something like that, they are closer to the high school.
Possibly. I don't know the routes of all the students and which direction they go, so
Okay.
it's possible.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, Councilman Reese.
Thank you. Mr. Ferrato, I appreciate the explanation. Having, lived in this community for 49 years, I'm familiar with the site and drove by it over the weekend. My question is really for our legal counsel. So in the denial of applications for privilege licensing, there is the concept of arbitrary and capriciousness, right? The idea that applicants of similar character or quality should be treated the same unless there's a rational basis for it. So I'm trying to understand, I was not here during the September 27th, 2023 meeting. I don't understand how this would not have triggered that in terms of how the applicant was treated in that denial.
Yes, if we're.
For the record, John Shipman, City Attorney's Office. I can't speak out of memory as to that particular item at that time. I can say that, if the notion is that the council believes that it needs to be denied, the recommendation from the City Attorney's Office is to create the record. What are the facts that you're basing that denial upon? It'll be, in the record, it'll be what the information that staff is given, plus the information regarding the schools and other state authorities, plus whatever record that you want to supplement it from a city council standpoint. And if you believe that's sufficient to deny, then it's at your discretion.
Okay. Madam Mayor, for my part, there is no way to deny the application. The literal location of the other small business, which has gaming, is about 30 feet. And on top of that, the Reno Municipal Code does not have a limitation on proximity to schools. On top of that, you have the Gaming Control Board, who has allowed for these to happen. We're a gaming community. You can game in Rayleigh's, Safeway, the grocery store, anywhere you want to. And so I don't understand the original decision. I was not here for it. So for my part, this small business owner should have the same legal rights as the adjacent small business owner. And so I will be voting to support the application that's been presented.
All right, Councilwoman Breckus.
Yeah, so let's kind of go through the statements that our staff has made. Is one, the Gaming Control Board asked questions, but saw it was okay. You know, that's fine. They're a statewide board. You know, in my history of watching their proceedings, is really, they know it's a two-part approval, and the local dynamics, what's going on in the immediate area, is a planning decision, okay? And local. So that's why they make two steps, okay? Number two is, well, there's a 7-Eleven across the way and they've had gaming for 40 years. That isn't justification anywhere in any basis for having gaming over here, okay? For all we know, this property was a bank up until about 2012. For all we know, 40 years ago, the city fathers might have said, no, we're not going to have the 7-Eleven there because it's too close to the school. We want it over there. So, you know, I think there is some tremendous reason for this proximity. And I just want to go through also, Mr. Reno, would you put this on the slide? So let's talk about going by. Mr. Reese said he went by on the weekend. I've made several trips during the school days, including during lunch release. Now, this was lunch, my second visit was lunch release, and that little golf cart, that's a Reno High School. It has a little a decal on it. It's Reno High School. They're sitting there watching, okay, because it's an open campus, and they're keeping a good enough eye on the students as they go to open campus. What does that demonstrate? That demonstrates that this is where students go. I want to let you know, you see maybe 10 students out. When they release all at once, one time and I was a little further away, I could get a photo. There's 50 or 60 students waiting, queuing up to go in there for lunch, okay? So I think it is a business that serves the student population. The introduction of slot machines is incompatible with a student population because students in a high school are not 21 and above. So the arbitrary and capricious is, no, the findings to me are proximity to the Reno High School is found as a reason for denial because the business is one that is populated by minors. This is a business that is frequented and serves minors who are all released at one time. The bell rings, everyone's out, resulting in large numbers of students simultaneously looking to patronize the business, which is great. But when they do that, and this is my third point, the internal circulation in the storefront results in students, and I'll admit I didn't go in to witness this, but I know the layout of it, results in students overcrowding into the gaming floor. The gaming floor should be an off-limit area to students, and it is not allowed by this, and it is not accomplished through this request. That is why I think our decision back in September was a good one. And I think we should continue to do that. I don't think it's arbitrary or capricious. This is a business designed for students. Students come in unique circumstances of crowding in all at once, trying to get their lunch in a short period of time. They don't need to be pressing into the gaming chairs, putting backpacks on the gaming devices. It should be denied. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you so much.
The time.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I hesitate to weigh in on this, but in my time on council, about 10 years, we've actually discussed this general location a number of times, not just this time, or this in September. And my concern with just the argument that, well, there's one here, and then this one's only 30 or 100 feet away, that kind of leapfrog, then we could have one next door, it's only 10 feet away from this one. And I mean, by this extension of this logic, pretty soon could be in the school, if you see what I mean. It's not, with all deference to that argument, I do think that the reason that we originally denied this was our concern about exposure of minors or of providing proximity. I'm sure we made a record at that time. Do you have what we said at that time, our rationale?
The rationale was the proximity to the school.
And my question here is there any change from the time we made that decision? For example, have they screened this area in a different way? Or is it monitored by an adult? Or some operational thing that would give us the comfort that we're not exposing minors?
I don't think that anything specifically changed, but I know that especially during the state discussions, the applicant was willing to set up some sort of stanchion to divide the area. It's a small enough shop that, you can see from the street that one person
People
behind the
can-
counter can see everything that's going
Sure.
on. So there's monitoring going on.
But I also know they're dealing with transactions, they're taking money, they're selling products, they're not monitoring the gaming area. So
And I would
I'd
also
be,
offer that if you'd like to hear from the applicant, we could.
I would.
Yeah, if.
Personally, I mean, I think we could move forward, but I do think that a change in condition is the basis on which I would want to move forward. I don't think our rationale was flawed before. I mean, a majority of this council denied it. So I want to hear some change, that then we could get to yes, and not undermine our previous decision.
Lance, quick question, Lance.
Yes,
They do serve alcohol, correct?
it does have a package alcohol license.
See, I mean, I'd be more worried about that.
Yeah.
What I think I'm struggling
hear
a
you.
little bit is, with the gaming license, doesn't that create a disadvantage or an unfair advantage if someone else across the street also has gaming? Because what I'll tell you is, and I went to Reno High, the majority of the traffic is over at 7-Eleven, and they have gaming.
Correct.
So I just wonder, are we creating an unfair advantage for a business owner in that capacity?
It's possible. I guess it depends on the.
I mean, I'm
on
more
how
worried
it's
about
viewed.
the alcohol because I shouldn't say anything.
Okay, that's good to know.
You guys
too.
know. There were many times we tried to buy alcohol in high school.
Oh, my gosh.
If we could do it.
Oh, my
Well, then
gosh.
we started to get smart and ask the adults when they walk in, can you
Right.
buy it for me?
Of course.
This will be great. This will be that next headline and then my.
But they're the ones sitting at the gaming, they're the ones sitting at the gaming
And then
chairs.
this one over here is gonna
that's
be
part of
like,
the problem.
"Did you hear what
is the
she said?"
interaction.
I would like to just hear if there's a change in operation,
Anyway,
so I could
that's
change
just
my
my
vote
thought.
from no back in September to yes today.
Sure.
All right, come on up.
Jeff Hood, Northern Nevada Regional Manager for Century Gaming. Commonly, the state will put conditions on locations if they can't have unfettered access visually.
Yeah.
They didn't in this case, but if you would like a condition that we have a mirror or cameras, we're willing to comply with that.
Or the stanchion that kind of protects that area from the regular rest of the folks.
Sure, we don't have a problem doing anything like
Those
that.
three things would give me some greater comfort.
Yeah.
That, we're achieving our goals. I'm very business friendly, and I want to be able to support into the mayor's argument, I don't want to do for one and not do for another, but I also want to, do
So
our
you
job.
like stanchions, cameras, and a mirror?
I think it's a good idea. What do you think? You're in the gaming business.
Are we going to ask
We've never
7-Eleven?
had a condition like that, but if you feel it's appropriate, we'll go ahead and do
Well,
it for
let's
you.
hear from the rest of the
7-Eleven
council.
have the same? I don't think
They
I
don't
don't
have
know.
anything
No,
like
they
that.
don't.
It's just closer. Yeah.
Bridge
I've
Pub
even
doesn't
seen
have
The
it either.
stanchions are the most, if I may, asked you to come up.
We're going to ask a business to construct something
No.
which is within their.
Stanchions are here. This is a stanchion right here.
But it's not anywhere else. We haven't done it for any other business.
Okay, if I may, I am asking for a change that helps me get from no to yes. And that's the most important to me, is just sequestering the area. I don't think particularly mirrors are a thing that would help in this case, because you still have the same staffing. If you think cameras are a good idea throughout your store, I have to imagine you have cameras because of theft. We're having a tremendous amount of theft in almost every operation like yours.
I'm sure he has cameras, whether they're aimed at the
Yeah,
slot machines.
that's what
not
I'm
sure.
saying. I think they're already there. But this is a very inexpensive thing to do, and I think would create some
If
change.
that's a condition you feel is appropriate, we'll
Yeah,
do it.
well, that's for me. I mean, I'm happy to hear from everyone else.
All right, Councilwoman Ebert, did you have anything you want to add?
No, not right now. If
Okay.
anybody else has another round.
All right, anyone else? Seeing there are none, I'm going to send it back to you. I think, Councilwoman Ebert, you were the one that pulled the item? Go ahead.
I'm just not comfortable with it being this close to the high school and seeing how many kids go in there. I know that there's another location that has gaming, but it is on the other side of the street. It's not as close to the high school. It doesn't have the same access. So I'm gonna move to deny.
All right, thank you so much. I have a motion,
Yeah, I'm going to second.
and I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay. All right,
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a
motion
different
dies.
motion.
Go ahead.
All right, Madam Mayor, I motion that we approve this location with the addition of a stanchion and a redirection of some of the cameras in the business to this general area.
All right, thank you. I have a motion, I have a second.
Madam Mayor.
Discussion?
Yeah. You know, I think some of the discussion for physically separating is a little flawed, because if you observe these students, and I don't know what lunchtime is, but it's pretty short. I mean, kids are hauling, and they're going right there. You know, there's a reason someone came in and went to the Planning Commission to open a convenience store there from a bank. And it was, you know, they see a captive population, and those kids are there, okay? So the gaming devices take out an area where these kids can go in and do their business. It's like this business wants to have it both. They want to serve the population, but then also create an environment where 4 people can take up space, sit there all day, have interaction with the students. It really brings up questions of, you know, what are we building this city for? If we cannot tell a very oriented to a high school population business, it's going to be an a hands-off area for gaming. You know, there's gaming all over. And, you know, if we were walking through the casinos, limited gaming, 18-year-old minors wouldn't be allowed to be in proximity. But you're allowing right now 18-year-olds who are known to go there to cluster in and just scrum, you know, if you will, scrum like a rugby team into a little environment with a gaming, you know, a large four gaming units. It's really sad, but you know, I'm going to not support this. And it's been interesting to see the incrementalism, because I remember when I came on, the liquor came on, and Bob Cashell said, "What? We allowed liquor here?" And how'd that happen? How'd it go from a nice bank to a liquor and now a gaming place right across from the high school? And he was not happy with that, but it had gone through the Planning Commission, been recommended, and, you know, it's not a good mix.
Anyway, I remember that discussion, and that was the big issue, was the alcohol. And again, that's where I do think that's the problem, not over here. So, all right, I had a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries. Thanks, Lance. Okay.
Madam Mayor, before we go on to item B7, for the record, I would just like to state that we did take a motion on item A5 for approval of minutes. However, there were no minutes to accept, so I'm going to withdraw that motion for item A5. So
Sorry.
we're moving on now to item B7, pulled by Councilmember Ebert.
All right, go ahead, Councilwoman Ebert.
Okay, so this is in regards to the contract for park mowing services. So just in looking through the staff, looking through the staff report, on the front page it says a contract period for 1 year. contract period is for 1 year with 2 one-year extensions available. And then a sentence down, it says staff recommends awarding the contract to Reno Green Landscaping with a start date of April 1st, 2024, with an expiration date of December 31st, 2024. So that's less than 1 year. Is that just because that's what's left of the year, and then we'll extend it as needed for 2 years if we want?
Fine with me.
Nathan Elliott, Parks and Recreation Director, for the record. That's correct. We want to get it onto a calendar cycle. The mowing season is typically March, April through the latter part of fall, end of October. So we need to start now since it's a new contract. Our last contract just ended. Ideally, we would have started January 1st if we had all the information and the thing selected, so it would be a calendar year cycle.
Okay, so if we extend it at the end of the year, it would be for January 1 through December 31st?
That's
going
correct.
forward?
Yes.
Okay. I had another question too. I noticed that the contract is awarded for $335,000, some change basically, but on page 434 of the staff report, the amount that is listed on here doesn't match that amount. I'm just curious.
Sure. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get this right, but Matt will back me up if not. There was...
Or I'm sorry, that's not on this page.
I think I know what you're talking about, where one of the numbers was higher for the additional mowing in those areas. And the calculation of the RFP, in this case, Reno Green, was at the entire acreage. The additional mowing is for a select acreage of athletic fields and practice fields, which we want to do. They're just heavily used, so we want to get an extra mow in so that we can start doing a turf rebuild program.
Okay. And then also, there was a section in here that says, proposed award date by city council was February 14th. Is there a reason why we missed that date?
Not specifically, other than to just get the contract in order.
Okay.
Just one of those things. That was where we would have originally liked to have gotten it if we could, but
Okay, so not like a specific, something went wrong or anything like that?
no,
just
I think we haven't done this RFP for 5 years, and so I think Matt wasn't here, I wasn't here, so we kind of learned the RFP process as a part of this too. So the review and everything like that was probably
Okay.
what kicked it a little bit down the road.
Okay. I do have one more question, if
Sure.
I can just get another.
Let me just check in with any others. I have yes, Ms. Breckus, and then Mr. Reese.
Yeah, the second paragraph of the discussion section of the staff report says that bid alternative 1 allows for 1 additional mowing per week at 38 athletic field sites. Who's mowing those presently?
Well, the former contract just ended, so they're not being mowed during the kind of dormant downtime season, so the mowing should start kicking up shortly.
But if it's a bid alternative, why is it a bid alternative then?
Because it would be in addition to what we did last time, so we wanted to see and separate that pricing to ensure we understood what the actual cost of that piece was.
Were they part of the prior contract, those 38 sites? Were they getting mowed?
They were part of it for a single mowing, so this is adding the additional mowing on those sites.
Oh, the second one?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, back to you, Ms. Ebert.
Okay, so also in the contract, it says that contractor shall have the opportunity to correct any failed inspections by the end of the workday following the notice of a failed inspection. Who's going to be checking this? Are we going to have a City of Reno person checking this, or are we just kind of,
So in our parks, almost certainly in the schools, we have an army of about 16,000 kids and families that check them pretty rigorously. So they
Okay.
will let us know. And
So those
Yeah.
are going to be our inspectors?
Yeah,
Okay.
they'll be the initial kind of sound the alarm, and then we'll go out and inspect and then issue that correction notice.
Okay. Okay, so if you don't hear about it for a couple days, there's no issue with that? Because it says by the end of the workday, they'll still fix it, even if they're not
It's at
notified by the end of the day?
As we notice them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Reese?
Yes, Madam Vice Mayor, I don't have any questions on the agenda item, but man, what you're wearing today is the fit. What do we got going on here? Are
Well,
you
it's just
celebrating?
In preparation of June 16th being National Ascot Day. Be
Okay,
nice to see
very
everybody.
Wearing an
In
ascot
advance.
is a power
Yes.
move.
That's
Okay.
told as much. Yeah, Thank
Okay.
you.
Well, before you leave, let's see, do we have a motion for approval or denial, Ms. Ebert?
Motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion from Ms. Ebert, second from Mr. Reese. Any further comments? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimous. With the power of the chair, what I'm going to do is, knowing that we have an attorney-client, I'm going to take two items out of order. That is B12 and B17. And then I plan a break for us, a bio break and a attorney break. So B12 was brought up by me, Madam Clerk.
I thought we weren't having an attorney-client.
Yes, I'm sorry, that's a
Under
good
what
point.
Nevada revised statute are we
No,
going
you're
into
right.
closed session?
I'm sorry, I apologize, it's not an attorney-client, you're absolutely right.
What Nevada revised statute
I just
is
said we're
allowing
not,
us?
I made a mistake,
I don't know the statute
misinformed.
off the top of my head. It's a listed exception in 241.
To have a
It's-
non-meeting.
Yeah,
241.
It's
to
under
have-
280, yeah.
to
If the
have-
attorneys could let us know, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, attorneys, I believe we're having a non-meeting without you.
Yes, you are having a labor negotiation setting, and it's under Chapter 288, and I sent an email out, but I'll resend out the citation for
But the charter says that the attorney shall be present at all meetings of the council. The city
It's a
attorney.
non-meeting,
Yeah, that's
though.
it's a labor negotiation.
But we're meeting as a group. Isn't the city attorney fulfilling its charter obligations, being present when we're present?
For this meeting here, we currently are, but for labor negotiations, that's not what.
You don't
the charter-
meet, the
no.
charter doesn't apply. Okay.
Okay, so it's a non-meeting, so we're not having a meeting with our attorneys. So I would like to turn to item B12, Madam Clerk. I don't know if anyone's signed up to speak, but I wanted to explain why I pulled this. Oh, thank you, Megan. Thank you for being here. This is acceptance of a National Park Service Underrepresented Communities Grant for activities related to a Northeast African American Historic Resource Survey and National Register nomination. And while some things were on the agenda and they said it was inappropriate, oh my goodness, we might be harming or voting on something that would potentially harm a historically black church, this was prompted by our own staff. And I just wondered if you could describe what's going on here.
Good morning or afternoon. Megan Berner, Arts and Culture Manager for the record. This is acceptance of a grant from the National Park Service. This grant is an underrepresented communities grant. And the idea behind this really is to create more diversity on the National Register of Historic Places. And so we applied to do a survey of Reno's historically
Yeah, so do I.
Black and African American neighborhood. The Northeast area historically was that area. And so we applied to do a context. We will work with a consultant, a historian, to do a context for that area, to write about the history, document about it, work with the community in doing so, and then ultimately have at least one resource that will be put on the National Register of Historic Places.
Wow, fantastic. Well, I'm the liaison to our Historic Resources Commission. We just had a lengthy meeting yesterday about the Lear Theater and selected a consultant to do the historic structures report. So kudos to you with how things are going on the historic arena. Did someone ask you to apply for this grant? Was it a staff initiative?
It was a staff initiative. There's no match for this grant, which is really exciting. And so we thought, we really see a need for this and for expanding some of the knowledge around our cultural resources and especially, including the diversity of our community. And we were one of 21 groups that received a grant.
Amazing, in the country? All right. Well, kudos to you. I really wanted to put a spotlight on this and that no one begged us to do this. This is initiated by our own staff, and I really appreciate the work that you're putting into both our arts and culture and our historic resources. I think there is a public comment on this. Is that true, Madam Clerk?
We did close public comment for the consent items, but Alicia Barber is here if you have questions. or
Well, I
you
mean,
would like-
but this wasn't voted on yet. This is a, yeah.
I'd like to be recognized.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Before we
Yeah.
take public comment, let me call Councilmember Breckus.
I was going to pull this also, and I usually don't mention stuff that's, kind of more advisory, but I have had inabilities to meet with staff on this. This is why I'm no longer the arts and culture liaison, because the manager has not allowed me to have that kind of interaction. But I just want to say on the record is when you bring your consultant on, I think some outreach to the folks up at the Hurlong Depot would be a good idea. I, many years ago, heard from someone who either themselves or their mother moved from the South in the 50s, but maybe even the 40s, to work at Hurlong, along with a number of other African Americans who were, I think, fleeing, like Jim Crow conditions and had equal opportunity to work for the military. And there was a van that took a commuter van that was organized in some fashion to commute folks from the Northeast area, neighborhood, and I think it's mostly women, African-American women, up to Hurlong to do work, and then they would come back each day. And so Hurlong, I think, has a good documentation of their history. So I just wanted to reach out that might be an avenue of research for the both the migration and the foundation of that community too. So that's
All right,
that's all I have to
great,
say.
great input for you, Ms. Berner, in moving forward with this project. I would like to hear from Ms. Barber. I thought that was our protocol, is that we haven't voted on these items yet, so it's an action item. So, Ms. Barber? And thank you for staying around. I know you were interested in the previous item, but thanks for being here for this one.
Glad to be here. Hello, Alicia Barber for the record. This is such an exciting grant. It would be hard to kind of overestimate how exciting it is that our city government is now applying for this level of grant from the National Park Service and to get federal funding for this kind of thing. Melissa Hafey and Megan Berner in that office together have been going like gangbusters to find funding, especially something that doesn't require a match, which is what is happening a lot with projects for underrepresented communities right now. It's so exciting because this really is a part of the city that hasn't been given that attention and that respect for trying to really understand its history, its significance. When we started to do the research on Black Springs, which I've been working on for a while, and we just submitted the National Register nomination to the State Historic Preservation Office for the fire station in Black Springs with Our Story, Inc. But we have done some oral histories and learned about that connection with Hurlong even more. And it's a fantastic story because it is so far. But there were so many African-American families whose members worked at Hurlong and lived in Northeast Reno or lived in Black Springs and did travel back and forth and commute every day for a significant period of time, just looking for job opportunities. And so this area in Northeast Reno was, of course, extremely diverse. It did have the highest percentage of African-American residents for a very long time, largely because those tracts were established prior to the racial restrictive covenants that you had heard about previously that started in the 1920s. So these areas in the center part of town, like the Pounding Edition with the Hamiltons, whose homestead I talked about earlier, and in Northeast Reno, did not have that kind of restriction. So there was land ownership and tenants from a very early point in this area. And of course, like in a lot of other cities, unfortunately also, the advent of the Federal Highway Administration, who ran the interstate right through the middle of this community. There was also an urban renewal project in the 1960s that took out the center of this community, which was very diverse as well. And those are legacies that we know about with the federal government, but we will look for the local repercussions of that here. Through the work I did on the State Historic Preservation Office Historic Context for African American History, we started to examine some of the buildings in this particular area. We had an advisory committee that was statewide with some residents actually who had lived in that area, and we've done some more current oral histories also. So it is a fertile and rich opportunity for a lot more work, and these funds and allowing this context to happen and this research to occur is going to give us an abundance of information that will help us tell these stories, identify historic properties that we can then even think about, for future historic districts, for individual assistance, commemoration on various registers, whether local, state, or national. So I did just want to add my excitement about this.
Well, thank you for being here, Dr. Barber, and thank you for staying involved.
Thank you.
I'm so pleased with the direction our staff's moving. I just wanted to make a comment, which is a reference to something you said, which is that, and Ms. Berner said, which is that this grant requires no match. But many grants do require a match. And recently, we did another grant where we got money, $5,000 for historic plaques. And the mayor and I, using our council funds, were able to match that. And my request to our staff is that as they're producing the budget for our consideration, that they do put some money aside citywide to be able to match grants, which we haven't had the ability to do. If this required a match, you could not do it. You do not have another $50,000 or $55,000 to be able to match a grant like this. And they probably would have required maybe 20 or 25%, but you don't have that either. You didn't even have $5,000 to match the historic plaques grant. And we had to dig into our council funds. So if the staff are listening, those that, Ms. Bryant and others, I see our manager's not here, but try to set up a match fund for our grants if you can. It would really take the pressure off some of us. Some other people want to opine? Mr. Reese?
Madam Vice Mayor, thank you so much. First of all, I wanted to say thank you to Dr. Barber for giving us some additional history today. I think each one of us, I hope, are avid readers of the Barber Brief. They're, without a doubt, the most in-depth and well-researched bit of local information. And I think when people read it, they really trust the information. I would hope that something positive like this also makes it into that forum, because when we share those stories, especially the stories you've been sharing through Story Inc. or StoryCorps, I think it's a national organization, or the one about Black Springs, it's not reaching a wide enough audience because it tends to hit the audience that maybe is very interested in history, and I just want to see it grow. For my part, I think Councilmember or Vice Mayor Dewar, you also said something that resonated with me, and that is, we don't always know the types of grants that are out there and available, and I would hope that if you saw a grant, Ms. Berner, that you thought, gosh, this is just so awesome, but we are lacking the match piece of it, that you might let us know, and then we would have the opportunity to figure out how we can find the funds for it, even if it is just from council discretionary, because on the small grant numbers, like $5,000,
we were able to do.
Yeah, I would hate for us to turn down the opportunity because we couldn't match the other side of it, and so if ever you come to a point where you're like, this great historic grant is available, I want you to know my door is open, and I would certainly be considerate of that type of a match. So I think it's a great opportunity. This is really neat. I also notice, and hopefully this is something that Ms. Barber also saw, or Dr. Barber, in the staff report, there's a lot of facilitated public engagement, which I think is something that this council believes very strongly in. We have, I suppose there are times when we don't do as much as we need, and maybe there are other times where we've done more than was necessary. I look back at some of the larger engagement opportunities that we've done, like on redistricting or in how we allocated our ARPA allocations, where we had lots and lots of meetings. And sometimes people don't know where to plug into that, and so we got to make sure that some are Zoom facilitated, some are, and certainly I would hope that they would be, and it looks like they're in the Northeast community, but we got to make sure that we have lots of opportunities for everybody to participate. So I love the engagement piece of that. I know that it's only so much engagement can be done with a $55,000 grant, and so I'm mindful of that, but I do think it speaks to the broader point of making sure that the engagement we do meets people where they are. Having it, say, at City Hall on a Wednesday night may not be the most convenient thing for people, so we got to be out there in the community where they desire to meet. So if it's Evelyn Mount, or if it could be at Bethel, right? It could be a meeting that's held at a church like that, or maybe it's inside of the current existing Lear Theater space, which I know is getting cleaned up too, so it's exciting. A lot of moving parts. Councilmember Dewar and the Historic Resource Commission are doing a great job of really working through the issues as they arise. So I thank her for that.
All right. Well, to round this out, did anyone else have any public comment? Ms. Ebert?
I actually have a question about the grant. I noticed in the staff report it says, the purpose of this award is to complete a historic context and reconnaissance survey of Northeast Reno. Is this specifically only to be used in the city of Reno, or is this Washoe County?
There are defined boundaries that we put within that grant, and I believe that essentially the freeway was the southern boundary, and I can't remember the northern
freeway as in
boundary, but
McCarran or I-80?
I-80. And it is within Reno.
Okay.
The survey itself will be available to the general public to access, so anybody can can use the survey. if
Okay.
that's-
Well, I only ask because I know that there's, several times Black Springs was mentioned today, and I think that it is a really important historic area, but I don't know if everyone's aware that it's actually not incorporated into the city of Reno. It's technically county. So I'm just curious to find out if that's, would qualify to be identified through this grant, since it's not technically part of the city of Reno. I know it's surrounded by, but it is actually county, Washoe County, not city of Reno.
Megan Berner, Arts and Culture Manager for the record, I forgot that. That is not part of the boundaries of where we applied to do this specific context. So it would not be included in this.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comment? Mr. Martinez?
Thanks so much, Vice Mayor, and thank you, Megan, for and your staff for putting together this grant to be able to, add to the diversity of our registry. Also, on top of the suggestions by Councilmember Reese to read the Barber brief, I would also add A Cry for Help by Helen Townsell Parker, who was also here when we celebrated and honored Black History Month when we changed the belief sign to black, red, green, and yellow. And so just wanted to add that tidbit as well to the public record and make sure and appreciate Councilmember Dewar for pulling this item. And as we round out Black History Month, that we're engaging in these conversations and making sure folks feel seen and heard as we are up here on the dais. So thanks again for your work on this.
Okay. Anyone else? Madam Mayor?
Ms. Barber, did you want to weigh in? I thought you were like, hey. Go ahead, yeah.
Sorry, Alicia Barber for the record. I've just been working so much on Black Springs lately. I just wanted to let you know that there was a survey done of Black Springs by the Nevada Department of Transportation in the early 2000s. And so we are kind of working on that and working with that material from that survey, which was actually pretty comprehensive and involved interviews and such from a historian. And so in the work we're doing with Black Springs involving this National Register nomination for their fire station and other initiatives, we're building on that. So just so you know, Black Springs has been, has been surveyed. There's a lot of work going on with that. So I think the fact that this is focusing on another area doesn't mean that they're not getting, that's not getting
The
attention.
attention. Okay. All right, thanks so much.
Well, I'll just round this out. Any other council members? Any other comments? Thanks again, Ms. Berner, for all the work. I'm looking for a motion. I'm happy to make it, but.
Go ahead.
Second.
All right, I made a motion to approve this, and Mr. Reese seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. I'm going to hand the gavel back over to the mayor. And Mayor, let me just say, I announced that we would be taking a break. It sounds like we may not, but I did ask that we move to B17. But I just want to, because we do have people in the audience for that, both staff and visitors.
Yeah.
But there's probably others too.
Absolutely. So first of all, we have a lot of our team here, and I want to make sure that they get back to work before we take a break.
Yeah.
I think that's important, so for one. And then the other thing, Madam Clerk, I really want you to, and you probably have already done this, taken sort of a temperature of who's here for what item, because they're busy and want to get back to work too. So I want to move forward with getting everyone back to business.
So do you want to go to B17 or a different item?
Yeah, let's go to B17.
Okay. All right, Madam Mayor, I pulled this item. This is very exciting, actually. This is the city providing a resolution to the Director of the Nevada Department of Business and Industry supporting the affordable housing project identified as Vintage at Stoker, which is 180 units of affordable housing. I had a chance to meet with representatives of Vintage prior to this meeting for about an hour. The very first thing I did was to compliment them on the tremendous amount of work and money they have invested in our community for affordable housing. They have a whole team. We know some of them, such as Green Street, Dane and Jim. Most of us have gotten to, be on their speed dial. But there are others here, and I believe Eric was here earlier in the audience, maybe he's still here. But anyway, I'm just very grateful that they continue to invest in our community, and I wanted to highlight that. I also wanted to highlight that everything isn't always perfect, and that was part of our meeting today, was we got the stuff built, but then there's always, after the fact, how are we managing? And they have experienced, as others have in our community, some real management challenges with keeping people. They don't manage themselves. They contract with a third party. And I brought up some issues that have been lingering for about a year and a half with some of the issues, and I will really tag the management group specifically. I appreciate that Vintage has gotten on it immediately. So it's a cautionary note that when you build something, and I always call this a life cycle costs. You build something, but that's just the beginning. You've got to operate it, you've got to pay for that, and it's got to be successful for a whether it's a bridge, a dam, or a building with people. And with people comes people challenges. So I have gotten a commitment earlier today from Vintage to keep working on issues that have risen to our fire department or our code enforcement department. We don't want to be in those kind of relationships. After the fact, we want everything smooth sailing. And I want to compliment our staff today. We have Elaine and Monica here. I'm sorry to be so informal, but with our HAND, which is our Housing and Neighborhood Services, who are our primary staff that are devoted to implementing these projects and also the aftermath of the projects. They're the ones people call, as well as our code enforcement or our council members. So with that, I heartily endorse this, but I didn't know if our representative from Vintage had a comment, Ryan, or if any council members.
Ryan Patterson on behalf of the project with Vintage Housing. As you mentioned, we had I think a very positive meeting here and went over some of the issues, which I think kind of break down into different categories, but always comes back to communication. And we're committed to continue to improve the services and the livelihood of the people that are our tenants. I mean,
No, that was for me. You can keep talking.
You guys understand people problems, you understand managing people and trying to meet expectations, and we're going to continue to try to improve that mechanism, and I think we've taken some steps already to make sure that that's possible. We also appreciate, obviously being in a public-private partnership with the city and the state to make this happen. We've been a prolific affordable housing developer for a long period of time and over 25 years in the state of Nevada, and we continue to try to be, here and available to make the best opportunities we can.
And I have a second comment, but I'm out of time, so I wouldn't mind coming back around.
All right, any further questions, comments? I would just say this, that also part of the challenge too is sometimes it's actually not on your end. We see sometimes it's on the operating side end, so sometimes there's some confusion with that. And honestly, I've worked with your team. They've been fantastic. You guys have been super responsive. And so, I know that you're
it's
really...
unfortunate some issues have risen to the point where I had to get involved, but I'm here and I'm involved and we're going to rectify them.
No, and I really, really appreciate it because it's very helpful. But you guys have been a really, really good partner. You're doing a lot of good work in this community. I appreciate all that you have invested and how hard you guys have worked to really provide housing to, some of our most vulnerable in our city. So it's very hard to do, too. That's the other thing. It's a very challenging space to be in. So we appreciate you because there's only like a handful of people that do it.
Yeah, and
if that.
Not many people are actually doing the projects of size and scale that we are, so the problems tend to have a size and scale to them. So.
Right, exactly. Okay, go ahead.
I think Mr. Reese.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor and Madam Vice Mayor. For my part, I just want to say what I always ask when I ever get the chance to interact with your group, which is where's the next project, right? We need more of the projects that your team brings to this market, and we need a lot more of them. And whatever we can do as a council, and I think we've got a whole agenda full of things that are very similarly situated, I think we have desire to do. We want to create the opportunities that the housing type that you're building brings to this community. And Councilmember Dewar has been an incredible advocate for the people in those communities. It's not just enough to say we have approved or made way for you to build them, but Ms. Dewar, Vice Mayor Dewar, often is following up with those people as their tenants 5 and 10 years in. And so obviously, we have an incredible amount of respect for the work you do, and Ms. Dewar's goal is to just make the lives of those tenants that much better, as it is yours. So I think my point is to just say thank you for the work you do. Let's get together and make other projects happen, and let's continue to lean in where we can to fix the things that matter to Councilmember Vice Mayor Dewar.
I really appreciate that. I appreciate the support. You know, I know that the cities, they created additional mechanisms in the form of, you know, waivers and fee reductions and things like that that have been incredibly helpful, and obviously in a more difficult environment than it's ever been to create the housing with interest rates and costs of construction and so forth, so.
All right, Councilwoman Dorr.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to make a note that we have on our agenda about 5 projects that we're considering for the waivers that were just mentioned. Sewer, hundreds of thousands of dollars to support affordable projects. I think we have 5 on our agenda, and you will be coming back later too with this project for similar waivers, permit fee waivers, sewage connection waivers. So I have talked to our development services, and one of the challenges is that there is a, I don't know if you want to call it a loophole, but for buildings like yours that are under 5 stories, yours is a 5-story, the one at Vintage at the Crossings, for example. And on those buildings, they do not require the kind of safety things that I think should be in these kind of buildings. One would be a way to have elevators on a separate circuit with generators so that the residents can escape. The elevators shut down. If there's a fire, if there's a power outage like we had last winter, the elevators shut down, but often in here we have people that are in wheelchairs living on floors 2, 3, and 4. And those people need a way to get in and out of the building, even in those conditions, especially if they have to escape and they can't come down an elevator because it's shut down. So I've already had a long meeting with our building code folks to talk about where we're giving waivers, hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think it'd be good for the developers to lean in and address some of these very obvious safety issues that that are required for slightly taller buildings, 1 more floor, they're required. But for 1 floor less, they're not required, but they're still needed. So it's power, there's a wheelchair ramp that you can put in stairs that's very inexpensive. And there's other things that we can do to make these safer buildings. And so I'm just planting a seed with our council for items coming up on the agenda, and also this item coming back, should we move forward. And just some things to think about, but that's what Mr. Pingree suggested. He said it's probably not something where we change our whole building code, but for certain projects like this, where we're in partnership with you, that might be appropriate. Okay? Very
I mean,
good.
we had a great conversation regarding this. I mean, obviously, this project that we're bringing before you is actually family and only 3-story walk-up. There's no elevators involved, but where we have seniors involved, we are going to go take a look at the production and the structure. And
Power
we're committed to
outages,
making
people
sure-
having heart attacks. I mean, the result of not having these things has resulted in real health and emergency problems already. We've seen it.
Okay. All right, can I
Thank you.
please have a motion?
Motion to approve this item?
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much, Susan. Thank you.
Okay.
I think we're
Madam
back to
Clerk, where should we go?
B7. If you want to go back in order, I think.
Well, I would like to see, can you give me a little
Madam Mayor,
direction?
majority of our audience
Oh.
members today are here for items C2 through C6.
Oh.
So if you would like to open those items, I believe that should help clear out some staff and constituents.
Okay.
Okay.
And I guess we would put them all
And we're opening them
under one?
together.
Okay.
But you are going to need 5 separate motions.
Okay, so we will need 5 separate motions. Okay, no problem. Hold on, so we're gonna go C2. Okay. All right, Madam Clerk. Let the record reflect that the council is opening the public meeting on items C2 through C6. Any council disclosures? Seeing if there are none? Oh, wait. Or do you have one? C3. C3, go right ahead. Okay, so Councilwoman Taylor will abstain on item C3.
You mean recuse? Or you mean leave the room?
Yes.
Oh. So if we open them all together, maybe we should open them, I don't know, individually. Or take 3 first. She could leave and come back for the rest.
We could do that. So Madam Clerk, at this time, do you have any public comment?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We do not have any public comment registered for these items, and additionally, we did not receive any correspondence.
Okay. Councilwoman Taylor?
So, Madam Mayor, fellow council city members, and Madam Clerk, in the interest of full transparency, on item C3, I am disclosing that I serve on the board of directors of the Eddy House. Eddy House is a nonprofit charitable organization that works with youth to develop life and job skills necessary for sustainable independence with the goal of ending youth homelessness in Northern Nevada. As a director, I am an unpaid volunteer, and I have never received any financial benefits or other consideration from Eddy House. Item C3 involves the approval of a request for an affordable housing fee reduction of up to $17,432 in building permit fees and up to $316,412 in sewer connection fees for Eddy House Transitional Living. On this matter, I have sought guidance from the city attorney's office. I have been advised that I have a commitment in a private capacity to the interests of Eddy House. I have also been advised that the independence of judgment of a reasonable person in my situation would be materially affected by my relationship with Eddy House. Accordingly, I will not be participating or voting on this item today. Madam Clerk, please accept this disclosure and lodge it on the record for this meeting. I'll step out of the room. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So we'll take item C3 first. And that will be discussion, review, and potential approval of a request for an affordable housing fee reduction in accordance with the Reno Municipal Code 1.08, consisting up to $17,432 in building permit fees and up to $316,412 in sewer connection fees for the Eddy House Transitional Living. All right. Nice to see you.
Nice to
Elaine,
see you. Thank you.
take it away.
All right, for the record, Elaine Wiseman, Housing and Neighborhood Development. And just so I'm clear, do you want me to just go directly to that item and not go through the program as a whole?
Yeah, I'd probably better.
Okay.
Sorry,
Okay,
and
let
if-
me get there.
If I could, Madam Mayor, just for noticing, proper notice was given.
Oh, perfect.
And no
Sorry.
correspondence was received on these
I thought I
items.
asked you that. Oh,
That's okay. Thank you.
good, thanks so much. See, this is why we have a clerk.
Madam Mayor and Ms. Wiseman, maybe can I just ask, I know that the original goal was to open all of them at the same time, talk about the general overview of the program, and then we've had to pivot a little bit because one of our colleagues needed to excuse themselves from the room on one item. For my part, I certainly know well the program that you're sharing with us. I think it's fantastic. I'm going to be supporting all of the agenda items. I'm trying to help us and you to figure out how to best get through the next several minutes.
Yeah.
So for my part, perhaps it is better to just do the generic overview about the programming, and I don't need a lot, obviously. I've already indicated my support for the programming, and then maybe we go by the specific Eddy House. This is just my thought, Madam Mayor, and
No, and I guess we take it for granted because we know, but I think to Councilman Reese's point, people may not. I guess I wanted her in the room to hear the whole overview, but I think Councilman Reese is right. If you could kind of go a little bit over how we got here so people are not confused.
Okay.
Does that
Madam
make
Mayor,
sense?
before we go, could we, an idea would be to take all the other items first and then do Eddy House. And then she can be in here, we can have the discussion, we can do our thing, and then she could leave for C3. It's a reverse of what we just said, but it would accommodate what, would that make some sense?
Yeah, that's fine.
Just,
I
I
really
mean,
don't
rather
care.
than do
I
C3,
don't
do
care.
C4, 5, and 6, and then we can kind of
Yeah.
proceed. Would that help?
Okay, so I'll just start here. This is just a very brief history about the Affordable Housing Fee Reduction Program. In 2019, state law was changed to enable local jurisdictions to reduce or subsidize enterprise fund fees. In 2020, City Council adopted an ordinance setting affordable housing fee reduction parameters, standards, and criterias for our jurisdiction. Hi.
Welcome back.
Okay, I'm going to jump.
We're just trying to confuse
I'm going
you.
to jump forward prior to those, and I want to go to the program as a whole. So holistically, this program, prior to your action today, has approved $7.3 million in sewer subsidies, over $600,000 in building permit fee subsidies, and supported the creation of 1,459 units. which is incredible. Every time we bring this item to council, this list just keeps growing. It's phenomenal. Today, we have 5 projects pending for over $2 million in sewer connection fees and over $100,000 in building permit fees. So after today's approvals, the combined subsidies will be over $10 million and supporting almost 1,900 units. So with that being said, that's really the program as a whole. I can accept questions about the general program if you would like, or now I can go back to each individual project and just give a brief overview. So I will leave it up to you.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Well,
Madam
I
Mayor.
have a question generally.
For my part, I just want to say, Ms. Weissman, your team is doing such incredible work. And every time you come with one of these, because we've had a number of them since 2020, that list has grown. And that's because of the work you're doing. So we get to vote on it. We get to support it from a policymaker's decision, but the work is largely on your back. So thank you for that. We see you. We know that the work you're doing is important, and it is, I know, for thousands of people, those 1,900 units are going to make a big difference in their lives. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes?
Go ahead.
Question. On any of these, we're not doing C3, but the others, do any of them have, are they multi-story or one-story, or what's their situation?
The majority of them, I think all of them are multi-story.
Okay. Do any of them have elevators?
I believe a couple of, well, I think, Village at Sage is not multi-story. But the other ones, I believe they have elevators. But again, all of the developers are here, so when we get to each individual motion, I was going to call the developers up to answer any specific questions.
Well, and then I assume that they all have, I assume, fire sprinklers? Because they're multi-story
I'm
apartment
sure.
even? And then, do you know if any of them have security or plan to have security?
I do not know.
Okay, so that's be a question I'll ask them then when they come
Okay.
up. But here's the thing. I think where we are partnering, that I would like to see the buildings that have elevators, sprinklers, and need security, to have those. This population needs as much attention as all the other populations. And I don't think you participated today with my conversation with the Vintage. But these are issues that have come up time and time again. They're not required by building code to have an escape hatch when the elevators shut down. And so what I'd like, but in other buildings, we require that the elevators be on a separate circuit and that there be generators. So if there's a power outage, and this is whether anybody could be in a wheelchair. It's not just seniors. Anybody could have mobility challenges, not just seniors. So I would like to see the security issues put in to each of these projects. And I can't do that right here in a motion, but when we get there, what I would like to see is that the staff, prior to doing an agreement with each of these folks for 300,000, 700,000, whatever it is, that you take a close look at the security features, especially fire-related, and that you have them go above and beyond the building code to make sure people can evacuate out of the building. That means having certain kind of doors and certain things that are generally applied to over 5-story. I don't think any of these are over 5-story, 5-story and over. So that's my request, just from what I've seen in other multi-story buildings that are not quite reaching the 5. And I think it's a reasonable give back for the residents in lieu of the funding that we're doing. And I'm not sure how to craft that, except to give you some direction potentially in the motion when we get there to address these. And I can give you a list offline, but I'll give you one more example. It's fire extinguishers. Generally, they use the big 10-pound fire extinguishers. A lot of people can't lift those, even able-bodied people. It would be good to have those smaller fire extinguishers in units. That might be a simple thing that they can do to help provide extra security. So thank you, Madam Mayor. All right.
And Madam Mayor, I have to just jump in real quick.
Please.
John Shipman with the City Attorney's Office. So I'm concerned that we're getting a little bit far afield from what is being considered today, in the sense the public needs to be aware, for noticing purposes, if there's going to be additional things that are placed into these projects. So I'm concerned that if you go down that path, you might be creating a problem from an open meeting law standpoint. So the choice is there. If we're going down that path, which we might need to bring these back to get them so that we have that type of direction built into the title of these items so people know what we're doing.
Okay, well, perhaps it can be considered voluntary and not a condition, that these developers would come forward, and going forward after this, we could make it into a formal condition. Does that work?
Well, what the law says is that if we're going to talk about things here today, we have to tell the public we're going to talk about things.
Right.
And I think that in these agenda titles, it does not give the public that notification. So I just want to put everybody on notice that we need to keep the conversation tight to what's in the item. Now, that doesn't mean we can't come back with other titles that address all of those things, but it's just that at this point, we need to keep the items kind of tight to the title. So
Okay, well, I've only just learned about this in conversation with our building official about the opportunity in exchange for the funding that we're providing, a small amount of funding for them to provide extra security that's not currently required. So I've said my piece. It doesn't need to be part of a condition. I can speak. I mean, I have freedom of speech, I think, to say what my concerns are. We've given, you just said, $8 million between sewer fees and permit fees. I'm completely supportive of it. I just want to make sure these are fabulously safe places for our residents to live, so.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Dewar.
Thank you.
All right,
Okay, so just to
yes,
understand.
go ahead. Councilwoman Taylor, sorry, so sorry, Elaine. 1 second.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted, the only thing I wanted to do is love the program, love everything. Thank you for your hard work, but it seems to me that there might be somebody new on your team that I missed at yesterday's Reno Housing Authority meeting. And I was wondering if you might want to introduce her.
Yes, absolutely. This is Corey Fisher. She comes from the Reno Housing Authority. She is our newest housing manager in housing and neighborhood development.
I thought you,
So
I
we
was like,
to-
I know you. What are you doing here?
She works here.
We stole
Oh my
her.
God, you stole her.
We
Yes.
did. We're very lucky to have her.
So welcome, Corey. Thank you so much
I thought you
for
might
being
have
here.
been here for RHA, but no.
As of this week,
Elaine.
officially here for.
It was Monica.
I bet they're not happy.
They aren't happy.
They're not happy.
Thank you.
Good, are you
Councilwoman
excited?
Taylor. I'm very excited. I'm Corey Fisher for the record. Very excited to be here and honored to have this opportunity to serve the community that I love so much, so.
And that's so great, because honestly, now there's really some synergy between both groups.
Absolutely.
That's so great.
Absolutely. Good things
Thanks, you
coming.
guys.
Thank you.
I'm glad you pointed that out. I didn't know that.
Okay, so just so I understand correctly, we're going to go and do all of them besides the Eddy House. Is that what we pivoted to?
Yes.
Okay, so I will bring it back to a brief overview of each project besides the Eddy House, and then I will come to each motion and then bring the developers up for a question at the time that their motion comes up. Does that work for
Sounds good.
this body? Okay, great. So let me go back. Okay. The first project that we're going to talk about today is Carville Park Apartments. It's located on Carville Drive, and it's an existing affordable housing complex with 208 units. However, the units are configured different now than they are going to be after this redevelopment. So right now, they're in like quad units. So there are 4 bedrooms with bathroom facilities, and then 1 shared kitchen space and living area space for 4 different bedrooms. So the redevelopment entails, which I think this is so exciting, the redevelopment entails taking each one of those individual bedroom units and increasing the size and making them their own studio units. So there will be no more shared kitchen facilities or living areas. Each apartment will have their own kitchen and restroom facility. So it's a full redevelopment. We maintain 208 units of affordable housing with this project. This is targeted to 50% and below AMI. They do put a preference on seniors and or disabled. They are eligible for 100% reduction in their sewer and building fees, totaling the amount seen there on the screen. The next is Nevada Cares Campus, Phase 4 Supportive Housing. Again, another great project that really brings together the full continuum of care on that Cares Campus. This will be 50 units of permanent supportive housing for chronically homeless individuals, most likely coming out of the Cares Campus shelter. As you can see on the map, it is located right there on the campus. Really the first time that we've had really that full spectrum of care. Eligible for the 100% waiver, again, because of the deep subsidization, the AMI of those units. So they're eligible for those amount of fees that you see up there on the screen. Oravada Street Senior Apartments Phase 2. If this council remembers, they approved Phase 1 a couple of years ago, and they are actually getting ready to lease up Phase 1. So this is the second phase, located right next to the first phase. This is 34 units of affordable housing for seniors with a veteran's preference. All the incomes will be 50% and below AMI, which does trigger the 100% reduction in both sewer connection and building permit fees, totaling the amounts that you see there on the screen. And the last one we're going to talk about right now is Village on Sage 2.0. So this is right next door to Village on Sage that has been up and running for a while now. This will bring an additional 96 units of affordable housing to those at 60% and below of the AMI. For those of you who aren't familiar with Village on Sage, it's dormitory style living with shared facilities. So individual bedrooms and then shared kitchen, restroom, laundry facilities. They are eligible for an 85% reduction in their fees, totaling the amounts that you see there on the screen. So again, this is kind of a synopsis of the entire program that we've already talked about. This would be the first motion for Carville Park Apartments, and I would invite the developers to come up and talk about the program or answer any questions, and I'm also available for questions on this first project.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions for developers?
Madam Mayor, I don't have questions for the developer,
Go
but I
ahead.
did want to speak to this project very specifically. First of all, it's really a brilliant idea that was brought to us now. It's been a couple of years that we've been working on it, but the Northern Nevada Building and Construction Trades Council, they own this project. It's a type of housing product that was at one point in time, it was intended to serve a population that really needed that type of housing. The concept of the shared kitchen, I think when it was built in the 1950s, or maybe it was 70s, sorry, I'm dating us all, but in the 1970s was what I think people were hoping was an affordable component. But the problem is, as we evolved and as HUD's regulations evolved and as the way in which our lifestyles have evolved, it became a project that really wasn't the type that was meeting the need for our community. And so I can remember back to some of the early days about the project's conversation where we just didn't really know how to treat it. It wasn't whether we knew it was fish or fowl, because of course, as a body, we want to be able to support all types of housing, but the idea of taking existing housing and changing the nature and type of it was unfamiliar to our staff. And so there was a lot of leaning in that went into it on the early end because, there were questions about whether one could change and demise the walls interior and take out the kitchen and turn them into little studios. But it was a good example of working with our community partners. I think the Northern Nevada Building and Construction Trades Development folks really had a brilliant idea that helps our community move forward, in part because the way in which people are able to then apply for those and then get the type of vouchers or the different kinds of programs that HUD makes available to them is very different when you have what I'll refer to as congregant style living as opposed to a studio one bedroom, because then you can actually have like two adults living in them. It could be, I suppose, a couple or a married couple, and this was part of the education we had to do. But really, the Housing and Neighborhood Development Group leaned in. Ms. Foose and the building development folks on that side had to lean in. And what the result is an incredible project that is in a location where we already have bus lines and sewer lines. It's truly infill in the truest sense because they're not actually altering the 4 exterior walls. It's all being done inside. So I want to thank Rob Benner and his group who really worked hard to educate us about it too, because sometimes what happens is in government we see things in a very specific way and aren't able to get out of our own way. We went from having, the same building footprint, but now being much more user-friendly and can allow more people to live there and make their use of it at that 50% level, which is an incredible thing. And I know that hopefully it won't be the last project. It may be the most unique of the ones that we do, but I think it's a great project.
All right, Councilwoman Dorr.
All right, if Mr. Benner could come forward. I too want to heap praise on the Northern Nevada Building and Construction Trade Organization because you have also become members of the Western Nevada Development District. Your project, I think, here is really a model for the whole region, which covers 8 counties. What you're doing here is remarkable, and the fact that you're investing, you're showing current building techniques and advanced building techniques that really aren't being seen elsewhere, and you're doing a very high-quality job. And to my knowledge, you're paying prevailing wage. And all of those things are important models for our community to see, to experience, and to see that you can turn a project meeting those criteria, espousing the values that you stand for. Your money is going out. It isn't just words on a page. It is people doing things and paying for things that matter, both to the families that will ultimately live here, but also the workers that are building these projects and that are experiencing sort of the good that is happening from their work. They are by hand creating, with appropriate tools, creating living opportunities for people that they won't have experienced before. So it's remarkable. I thank you so much for your words, Mr. Reese. I also want to just briefly ask you, I believe it is a multi-story building, right?
2-story.
2-story. So it isn't really in the situation that we're facing elsewhere where we're with 4 stories. So, but when those opportunities come up, even if it's out on the job site, on a different building, it's something to have a conversation with them about the electrical circuitry. It is commonly done throughout the country to segregate the elevator electric from the electric of the rest of the building. So I'd love to see that principle go into practice here. Whatever you can do on that. Thank you. But kudos. Thank you for being here.
Okay, well, that was nice of you, because Rob is very humble, doesn't like to come into the dais.
I know.
I can just tell. Look at his face now. It's all red. But I'm so glad to see this, because we've had so many conversations about this project, not secret meetings or behind closed doors. So I want to say thank you so much. And I know this is it's like almost personal to you.
Oh, for sure.
See, look at him. He's like, for sure. So the amount of love and just dedication that you put into this project. I also didn't know the backstory, how much Councilman Reese has put into this project as well, but I'm really grateful because I know how much it means to you and the residents. So it's going to be fantastic. I know you've been very nervous for a long time, and I'm just so glad to see that, it's finally here. So good job.
Rob Benner, for the record, I'd just like to thank council for helping us through this the process, especially city staff. City staff's been great on this whole thing. This has been, I don't know, 2-3 years in the making, I think. And even before that, I was discussing, behind the scene or, with our staff, what to do about this project just to make it better. Because at the end of the day, this is, we have provided affordable housing to this community for 40 years. And we want to provide affordable housing to this community for another 40 years. And this project is all about preserving affordable housing for our seniors. And that's what we want to do. That's what we want to keep doing. And hope to bring many more projects forward to the council, in front of council to approve, because we are making a commitment to provide more affordable housing for our community.
Yeah. Well, I'd call you and be like, Rob, I haven't heard from you in a while. I'm getting nervous. And Councilman Reese got it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good.
Yeah. It's just been a long process. We're almost there. I can't wait to be done and then on to the next project.
Right.
So.
Well, Madam Mayor, thank you. That was very kind. But Mr. Benner, it's been a joy to work with you on it, to be honest with you. The idea was so intuitive when you brought it to us, and I thought, well, of course, we're going to do that. But boy, did we go through some hurdles to get there. So you're at the finish line, and I hope that we'll have the support from the body. But it's a privilege to work with you all.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Benner? Go ahead.
Hi, I didn't have any questions. I just wanted to say thank you too for taking me around, giving me a tour of the facility or the location, and just explaining what the plans were and what the changes were. And I just wanted to thank you for that, for taking the time to meet with me to do that too. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so, Madam Clerk, can we take a motion now just on this?
Yeah, I'm prepared,
Yeah.
Madam Mayor.
Okay, perfect.
On everything except item C3.
Well, we're just doing it on
do
C2,
one.
Charlie 2. Yeah. So I move to approve the request for subsidization of up to $25,967 in building permit fees and $714,246 in sewer connection fees for the redevelopment of the Carville Park Apartments in accordance with RMC Chapter 1.08, and make the determination that the criteria are met, and reducing or subsidizing such fees will not adversely impair the ability of the city to pay, when due, all interest and principal on any outstanding bonds or any other obligation to which revenue from such enterprise fees were pledged, nor affected the economic viability of the general fund and the affected enterprise fund.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Yay. Okay, next.
Okay, we'll move on to item C4. I do have representatives from Washoe County here to answer any questions about this project.
Madam Mayor, I don't have any questions. What an incredible project. What an incredible work the county is doing over at the CARES campus. I don't think any of us 5 or 6 years ago would have foreseen what the campus is ultimately going to become. Every time I've gone over there in the last several months, I'm amazed at the building, the activity, the changes coming. This one is incredibly important to the long-term success of the county's mission, and happy to be here to support you all today on this one.
Yeah, it's really impressive what you guys are getting accomplished. It's fantastic. So, Elaine, I just want to ask one question. I noticed on some of these, you were saying some were receiving 100% support, some were 85%. Why sort of the difference?
So it depends on the, Elaine Wiseman for the record. It does depend on the AMI that they're targeting. So the
Okay.
higher AMIs
Then
don't get as
more-
much
okay.
subsidy,
Okay,
correct?
good.
Yeah.
All right, gotcha. Okay, may I get a motion?
Motion to approve this item.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor
Do I have to
say aye.
read everything? Okay. All right. I will
I'm a
read
good
everything.
reader.
All right.
Faster if you want my help.
Councilwoman Dewar is going to put on the record.
Okay.
Got it.
I
ahead.
move to approve the request for subsidization of up to $26,087 in building permit fees and $433,782 in sewer connection fees for the Nevada Cares Campus Phase 4 supportive housing in accordance with RMC Chapter 1.08, and make the determination that the criteria are met, and reducing or subsidizing such fees will not adversely impair the ability of the city to pay, when due, all interest and principal on any outstanding bonds or any other obligations for which revenue from such enterprise fees was pledged, nor affect the economic vitality of the general fund and the affected enterprise fund.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Good job.
Okay, C5 is Oravada Street Senior Phase 2, and I have Chip Hobson here to answer any questions about this project.
All right.
No.
Any questions for Chip?
Madam Mayor, no questions, but obviously amazing work that they're doing.
Yeah, this
Important.
is the second phase.
Yeah, our seniors.
How's it going? It's going great? I thought you were just a swim guy.
No, this is my real job.
You're a housing guy,
This
too.
is my real job, and that was
That's my real
totally
job.
unexpected, the comment at the beginning of the meeting, and made a great new connection of a supporter of ours.
Oh,
So,
good. Good.
No, but I'm here as the executive director of Silver Sage Manor. We're a nonprofit, affordable senior housing developer based in Reno since 1992. The phase 2 of this project will be our second phase. of the Orvada Street, which actually was just recently opened and lease up, but actually better than that. We're about 80% occupied, and we've only been open about 3 weeks now.
Wow.
With great response so far from those that are fortunate enough to be in. So, and your support, both through, well, the administration of the home funds with the Washoe County Home Consortium, both on phase 1, and we have those on phase 2, as well as these waiver fees that really help. In our case, we are working under the 9% tax credit, serving very low-income seniors, and we really have no alternative sources of funding. We're targeting so deep that we can't have a permanent mortgage, so we don't really have anywhere else to turn. So every dollar is going to making the project work, making it pencil, and we're thrilled to have the support, thrilled to have the phase 2. I should also acknowledge to staff on this phase 2, which is a unique situation with the 9% deals and the amount of dollars that are available in a given cycle. We can't build more than about 40 units. So while we would love to build all 74 units at once, we can't do that, but your staff has been incredibly helpful in working through solutions to make that happen so that we'll be able to house 34 more senior residents once we open this in probably about 16 months. So any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
I do. Just Chip, I'm wondering, first of all, kudos, again, phenomenal project, and especially focusing on seniors. One of the challenges that seniors have faced, and I don't know if they will in this case, is that as our AMI goes up, the rents can go up too because they're tied to the AMI. They don't have to, but they can. I mean, they're allowed to, it's legal. And what I've experienced is that often the seniors in particular don't have the wherewithal to make up those rents, even if it's $50 or $100 more a month, because their Social Security didn't go up just because our regional AMI went up, because EDON in particular is doing such a fabulous job recruiting businesses to our community, such as high-tech businesses, service industries, et cetera, headquarters. They all drive up the annual median income. But on the back end, unintended consequence, seniors in particular, end up having to pay more for rent. I would love to have you and the other people that we've seen here today and still to come to sit down with me and talk about how we can get a handle on that. And also, you're dealing with a senior and disabled population, you mentioned. Are there things that go into your building that are particularly attuned? And I'll give you an example. Another senior place I've dealt with, when they were first built, the lighting was very low. It was quite dim. Even I had challenges seeing in the hall, to read, to put in a key, to do anything. And I recommended, and they are now improving the lighting in the hall. But just having a higher standard of lighting, for example, so seniors can see what they're doing in the hall and feel a little more safe. Those are some of the things I was alluding to earlier. I don't think you have elevators, right? It's only 40.
We do.
Oh, you do?
We're 3-story. I would be more than happy to meet and discuss all these issues. I'll take a real quick stab right now that on the rental thing.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, we have meetings? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I meet
Go
with
ahead.
him all the time, so go ahead.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Chip.
On the rent issue, you're correct that our entire population, all of our units serve people at or below 50%, with about 40% of them being 40% and below.
Wow.
So we are targeting that exact population. The vast majority are on fixed Social Security.
Yeah.
We have not always raised our rents to the maximum levels
That you could.
historically that we could. We have to raise the rents.
Sure.
The other side of that is expenses are going up at a much greater rate than the AMIs. We also have done things like when we do implement the increase, we've often waited until after there's a Social Security increase.
Oh,
so that
perfect.
we know that we're not implementing a rent increase January 1 when they won't receive their increase in their Social Security payment until February or March. So we're very aware of that and try
fantastic.
within the best of our abilities to work and not do what you're concerned about. We do design the buildings in an effort to allow our seniors to age successfully in place. It is independent living, but we do consider things like lighting. They are elevator served. I was not aware of your concerns and comments. I will say that in our most recently opened building, I was there during a power outage, and our elevator still functions. I don't know.
Well, some are automatically shifted to a generator.
Right.
But I found out in others, they don't have that.
And I can't honestly answer right now. That's certainly something that the safety of our residents is a huge concern to us as
Right.
well. The challenge is with, any of those additions offsets then the good that the waiver is doing, but
Yeah.
certainly things that we will look at and
Yeah.
consider.
Well, it'd be an extra panel with a plug. You don't even have to have a generator. They could bring in emergency power if needed. But anyway, thank you.
Yep.
All right, any further questions? No? Okay.
Motion? Want a motion to someone else in Ward 3? Want to make this motion?
Councilman Martinez, you want to,
Yeah, happy to.
this is all you.
Yes, I move to approve the request for subsidization of up to $24,506 in building permit fees and $305,808 in sewer connection fees for the development of Oravada Street Senior Apartments Phase 2 in accordance with RMC Chapter 1.08 and make the determination that the criteria are met and reducing or subsidizing such fee will not adversely impair the ability of the city to pay when due all interest and principal on any outstanding bonds or any other obligations for which revenue from such enterprise fees was pledged, nor affect the economic viability of the general fund and the affected enterprise fund.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, good job.
Okay, and next is Village on Sage 2.0, and I do have representatives here if you have any questions.
All right,
I have a question.
okay. Councilwoman Dewar has a question.
Thank you. And sorry if it's too many questions, but each of these are fascinating and important to me. Village on Sage, first of all, I want to put a shout out. I don't know if she's still here, but Jackie Bryan, I know, was very instrumental in helping get the units that are going to be placed in Village at Sage 2.0. And so that's our staff again, stepping out, taking quick action to acquire more of the type of units that were used to build Sage Street 1.0. So yay for our team. The next question, and I know you care about this much, Mayor. I have a.
Because that was the question I was going to ask, so I'm glad you're asking.
Well, of course. When we approved a similar project for Sage 1.0, the mayor and I were very clear that we wanted 25% of the units to be, quote, dog-friendly, and to be able to have pets, and that wasn't a minimum, not a maximum, and to have a facility to store those pets. And I've had on my calendar a meeting with someone from your office that's moved from, it keeps getting changed, and now it's after this meeting instead of before. I'd hoped it would be before. Because people told me, we promised Naomi, VOA came, and they said, we aren't honoring your request, which was really built into the motion, I believe, to our council, maybe consternation, but built into the motion to approve Sage 1.0. So I really want to know, what is the plan with the pets? And are we going to be able to accommodate pets? And the reason is I just went to Northern Nevada Hopes and toured their whole tiny home village. They allow 100% pets. There's, of 29 units, or 7 right now, pets. And they have an exterior place for the pets to stay if the people have to leave. But what's really cool about there is that people are taking care of each other's pets rather than having them even in the kennel. That's kind of for a backup. I understood that your team was going to go see those kennels. So if you could just speak to that issue, that would be great.
Terry Miller, Community Foundation, Northern Nevada, for the record.
You might not have been aware. Were you aware? I don't think she was. She
I'm so sorry.
She
Wrong
wasn't
person.
aware. So, and first of all, nice to see you.
Yes.
For people that don't know who you are and all the great work that you do in the community, thank you so much. Like Councilwoman said, that we were just, we had been informed that they were not taking pets any longer, and that was part of one of the reasons why we really were excited about this project, because we feel that we can overcome some of those barriers to get people into housing. And so we were a little surprised. I think, Monica, you probably have an update for us.
Okay.
So to make your life easier, I think Monica can step in for you and answer that. Go ahead, Monica.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Monica Kirch for the record. I just want to let you know that I have had conversations with the Community Foundation and Volunteers of America, and they are both committed to the concept of having pets at 2.0. In some of the new renderings, they actually have incorporated a dog run, and I went last week with Travis from Volunteers of America to take him over to Hope's, because that is a great model.
It is.
For this, yes.
They have
And,
a dog park as well.
Yep, they have a dog park, and they have kennels, if you will, that
Right.
have their control.
Temporary.
Climate. Yes. And so we met, I made sure I got there with him before he left on vacation last week. I believe he's coming back next week, and we are meeting again. And I'm meeting also with Community Foundation to figure out the funding on how we can get something like that. And a conversation was even brought up, perhaps, of maybe sharing some of the facilities at Hope's to utilize them in a better manner. So they are definitely committed to this concept, and
Good.
we are working to get there.
And why are we talking about it on these units versus the ones we just discussed? Well, there's a presumption in Nevada that you cannot discriminate housing based on what type of dog. I mean, the state did a statute that says you can't discriminate based on what kind of dog and so on and so forth. But in this case, we have people that are transitioning from being unhoused to being housed, and that's the similar with Hope's. They are, I guess, the next step after being unhoused. And often we find the barrier, just as with abused women in particular, they do not want to leave their situation if they have to leave their pet. And we wanted to take away that barrier. And we want to recognize that it is a barrier and take it away. So that's why we're having the conversation with these units, with the Hopes, in particular. And so I thank you for being willing to step up and meet our challenge.
You're welcome. I'm just glad we're doing what we're doing. So
Yeah.
I'm so happy to be part of this project. I've only been with the foundation, like I said, a year.
Right.
And leading this project has been wonderful for
Yeah.
me. So.
Well, it's a whole new thing to do a development project versus administer money. I mean, being that level of involved.
Yeah.
And all the details that go into constructing something is very major, a whole different type of skill set. So kudos to you. But just know this council is very interested in addressing this issue. Okay.
Agree.
I happen to be chair of the Washoe County Animal Advisory Board for 8 years, and it's a passion to make sure that we're not discriminating on the basis of pets, and that we're treating the pets appropriately, and that we're getting our people housed. So thank you.
Madam
Okay,
Mayor,
Devin, go ahead,
I move
Councilman
to
Reese.
approve the request for subsidization of up to $8,116 in building permit fees and $313,507 in sewer connection fees for Village at Stage 2 in accordance with RMC Chapter 1.08, and make the determination that the criteria are met in reducing or subsidizing such fees will not adversely impair the ability of the city to pay when due all interest and principal on any outstanding bonds or any other obligations for which revenue from such enterprise fees was pledged, nor affect the economic viability of the general fund and the affected enterprise fund.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, good job.
Okay.
Okay, she's going to leave now.
Okay. Bye. Okay, I'm going to go back to a quick project overview of this project, and I will keep it short, but this is a fantastic project. Eddie House Transitional Living will be at 888 Willow Street, so this is actually the site of their shelter as well. It will be 36 units of transitional living for homeless, transition-aged youth, which HUD defines as 24 and below. With incomes at or below 30% of AMI. So with that deep subsidy, they are eligible for a 100% reduction in their sewer and building permit fees. And we do have Trevor here with the Eddie House to answer any questions about the project. So I will invite him up.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yes, please.
I don't think I have questions for you, Trevor, but what a joy it has been to get to know you these last many years, and I know how much of your heart has gone into this project. We began talking about this, and there were so many variations and iterations on what could be built, and I'm really proud of the work that you're doing. I continue to believe that even with the expansion, there's still going to be a need. I think, as you and I have discussed many times, one of the number one reasons that young people that your clientele ends up servicing are made homeless or find themselves where they need the help for transitional living is because they come out to their parents as LGBTQ folks. And for me, this is a sad reality about this country still, and it breaks my heart every time I think about it. But what gives me the hope is that places like the Eddy House are providing a safe space for people. I noticed a couple of weeks ago in the news, of course, that there was, you were at capacity, right? And so, again, it continues to break my heart that that's the case. I know that you all make do with what you can, and you house people wherever you have to at times. So thank you for that. My hope is that as you move into this facility, that we'll continue to make a dent in that space. But know that we believe in the work that Eddy House is doing. We believe in your leadership at the Eddy House. I know my colleague who could not join us on the dais here serves on the board, and certainly that's another call, as it often happens. But this is really exciting, and yeah, you have my whole heart on it.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
All right. Any other questions? Councilwoman Dewar, I'm sure does.
No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
We are a
Did I say
five-story
that in my
building,
out loud
so
What's that?
We're a five-story building that we're
Okay,
building.
so,
I'm just kidding.
so you are,
Wait, are you running
So-
for office?
no. So you already,
We already have elevators on a separate battery system.
luckily I've been on these issues for a solid 10 years, so this has nothing to do with electoral politics. This is all about,
You know, we have a colleague who always says that. So I was just trying to make light of a situation
Yeah.
that everyone kind of doesn't want to touch. But
Right.
I'm the one that always says it in my out loud voice.
okay, well, I'm saying in my out loud voice here too. I heard that. I tried not to comment or look your way, but,
But I mean, we weren't running, the thing I wanted to say about that, I'm sorry to go back to this, but you know what was funny? We weren't running to put money into a slot machine. We were
No.
running to go get.
I know, go get that beer. That was not me, in case anybody wondered.
No, I bet it wasn't.
I didn't
You
become
were
a beer
good.
drinker
You-
till
she
I was in college.
She was
so-
a good kid.
until I hit the 21 mark. But anyway, the 5-story, the point is you already need to meet these requirements. These are already in code, and they're there for a reason. It's to keep people safe. Now, you happen to be dealing with a young, agile population that does not generally, but maybe, have a disability such as a wheelchair, difficult with mobility, but they might. And I have met in my other previous tours at Eddy House, I have met some people that have some real challenges. It could even be mental challenges, frankly, that impair them from being able to react appropriately with alarms or requests to evacuate buildings and so on. But I just too want to say, I don't have any further questions. I just want to say thank you for everything you do. To Mr. Reese always makes some eloquent comments about what is happening, and what is happening here is we are out of room in so many places, whether it's seniors that we've been talking about a lot today, or youth, which we haven't talked to as much today. So I know you've worked hard. You've had the building fund. It takes a long time from vision to creating these projects and making them reality. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyway, okay, any further questions? No, I had, we spoke on the phone a few times and we've
Yeah,
met, and
that's
so,
correct.
and you're not from here?
I am.
Oh, you
Yeah,
are?
Yeah.
Or did you leave and come
I
back?
was in Vegas for 10 years
That's
before
right.
coming back home.
Yeah, see, I always think of people are, they're cheating on us when they move to Vegas. But we're glad you're back. Thank you so much. I'm hearing wonderful, wonderful things about you. Unfortunately, in my office, it's one of those things where, maybe it's fortunately, I don't know, but we tend to hear a lot of negative, but we hear a lot of everything. And I'm hearing wonderful, wonderful things about you and all the things you're accomplishing. So thank you so much, and also investing in our youth, because they are our future, and if we're not helping them, we're going to live in a very troubling world. So thank you so
We
much.
appreciate it.
All right, give me a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the request for a subsidization of up to $17,432 in building permit fees and $316,412 in sewer connection fees for Eddy House Transitional Living in accordance with RMC Chapter 1.08 and make the determination that the criteria are met in reducing or subsidizing such fees will not adversely impair the ability of the city to pay when due all interest and principal on any outstanding bonds or any other obligation for which revenues from such enterprise fees which pledge nor affect the economic viability of the general fund and the affected enterprise fund.
All right, I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. Great job, Elaine, as always.
Thank you.
Good job.
Really great job. But you know what, Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Great job to the council for putting this kind of program together.
I love it.
I mean,
Love it, love
making
it, love
money,
it.
being able to waive fees. We know the day of accounting's coming. I see Mr. Flansburgh in the audience. We can't continue to do it forever and be able to make that finding that it won't affect the fund.
Yeah.
And so that's something, frankly, we're going to have to lean in with the state to help get offsets so that we can keep the fund whole
Yes.
and not have to raise rates.
Okay, Councilwoman Taylor, come on back if you're back there. Oh, there you are. Come on. All right. Thank you so much. Good job. Great job. Okay, Madam Clerk, where are we at?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. We're moving back to our consent agenda. We're moving on to item B9 from Chief Nance.
Yay. Okay, Chief Nance, come on up. She's been waiting patiently for hours. Patiently. Okay, I believe this is Councilwoman Ebert. Am I right? This is how I want to see it. Because then everyone's getting to work.
All right, is it all right if we do B9 and B10 at the same time? Are they?
They're two different things, so I don't know
Different
the rules
things.
on that.
Okay,
Probably
okay.
can't. So let's go with B9.
All right. So I just wanted to know a little bit more about this. Is this purchase of a crime fighter, barcoded evidence analysis, statistical tracking laboratory? Can you just tell me more about this, what this is?
Yes, this is an information management system, so it's a tracking system that we'll use for both evidence and in the forensics lab.
So this is a new thing. This isn't, something we've had before or replacing anything. This is new.
We've had versions of softwares like this, but nothing that's as comprehensive that does exactly what this one does.
Okay. So is this part of like a greater effort to kind of do our own forensics things in-house versus outsourcing?
This money comes from, so the money that's being spent on this is the money that came from the forensic grant, which is the idea to stand that alone.
Okay.
So this is a portion of that.
Okay, so I guess what I'm asking is City of Reno kind of becoming more independent in its ability to kind of handle these forensics thing, or?
Some of this, yes. This is more of a tracking software for mechanisms for how we're processing things. So it is a part of that, but we would need this in the standalone and also with our forensics team.
Okay, thank you. I guess motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Councilwoman Ebert?
So similar questions on this. This is fingerprint capture system. Is this replacing something that we already have, or just a little more detail about this?
This is a new item.
Okay. So just something we've never used before, just something new that you're implementing for the Reno PD?
So this goes along with that forensics grant that we received, and this is a part of that. So this is one of the monies that are being spent from there.
Okay.
And then it goes with the forensics unit.
Okay. So is this something that we had previously outsourced anywhere, or?
Yes,
is
we
this-
would have outsourced this through Washoe County.
Okay, so this is something that we'll be able to just do in-house now? We won't have to pay another agency to process or do for us now?
How exactly that payment work, it's not a per item payment, it's a totality of different things that come forward in that item. So our goal is to move our forensics lab stuff in-house so that we can do it ourselves.
Yeah, that's really kind of what I'm getting at, is that this is part of a process to be able to do the things that Reno PD Reno PD needs to do in-house versus outsourcing things.
Yes.
Great. So that's just what I wanted to highlight. So great job.
All right, any other questions? Comments from council? Seeing none, will you please give me a motion?
Yeah, motion to approve.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Good job. Nice seeing you.
I think I'm back for one more.
Oh, you are for one more? Okay. All right.
All right, moving on to item
The
B.
next one?
B14.
Okay.
Pulled
Come
by
on
Councilmember
back,
Ebert.
Chief Nance. Long time no see.
Sorry, I thought there was one between me, between 10
Okay.
and 14. Sorry about that.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
I'm just curious what this vehicle is. It says it's worth $1,600. Like, what is this
It's
vehicle?
an undercover vehicle that we will use for undercover surveillance.
Okay, so we're not going to talk about what it is.
Exactly.
Okay, all right, never
It's
mind.
worth $1,600 and it's
Yeah.
a vehicle and we will use it for surveillance.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're going to go to B15, Councilman Breckus.
Just like a staff report, we have a staff member one here.
Sure, we do have a presentation. For the record, Angela Foos, Assistant Director with Development Services. One moment. Okay, so this is a dedication of property from BT South to Reno. A little bit of background into this. The map in front of you is the Verdi area. So we have an area within our zoning code called the Mortensen-Garson Overlay District. MGOD is what we can refer to this area as. Within that boundary, we have a requirement that before development within Phase 3, which is everything in yellow, that is the area south of I-80, again in the Verdi area, before the first final map is recorded within this area, 2.9 acres has to be dedicated to the city of Reno. So where we're at now, we have a 3-acre site, again, south of I-80, off of that Boomtown Garson Road. It's owned by BT South, and they are dedicating it to the city of Reno. So this is formally the process where you will accept that dedication.
All right, let me ask if there are, it looks like there's no public comment unless it's online. And then let me ask if there's any council member comments?
I have a question. So
Yeah, Ms. Breckus.
The requirement is not associated with the tentative map, it's just associated with that RMC?
It is part of the RMC. So when the first tentative map came through, which was part of the Meridian 120 South development, we added that also as a condition.
You added that as a condition to 120?
Correct.
Uh-huh, okay. Well, and for maybe not you, I don't want to, put someone to be responsible to answer questions that's not in their, area of responsibility. Where are we at on funding, building, and staffing this station?
Well, I can say it is not in our CIP currently. We have added conditions of approval on the projects within this MGOD Verdi area that they have to help pay to help fund that. It's a contribution with each building permit that comes in. They will pay a fee of about $1,608 per door. We will then collect that money and use that to help fund a future fire station.
Do we put impact fees on like we did for the police station for
We
that?
do not, no.
We just kind of informally did it that way?
That's correct.
Okay. And then is this going to get built before the downtown one?
There's no timing of this. There's nothing in the CIP for this one.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, any other council members, questions, comments? All right, seeing none, looking for a motion?
I'll move to accept.
Yeah.
Oh, did you have? Okay, so we have a motion from Mr. Reese.
Sorry.
Second, I'll get right back to you.
Yeah, I thought you were going to ask me to make the motion because
Oh, I
usually when someone
apologize.
pulls, you do, but.
No, I apologize, absolutely. Yeah, we just jumped the gun. Can I get the motion withdrawn and the second?
No, that's fine. I'll comment on the motion on the table.
All right, so we have a motion from Councilmember Reese, second from Councilmember Taylor. Are there any comments on the motion? Ms. Breckus?
Yeah, I'm not willing for the city to accept this dedication. It's based on the MGOD, which is expired. That agreement expired.
Right.
2, it's based upon, to pay for it, as I understand now, an internal handshake way, not through the methodology of NRS to do impact fees. And 3, it's going to set out there as people build and live out there an expectation that a fire station's coming. A fire station is not coming. It will be a long time until a fire station is built there. And I think that the expectation of having the land, future fire station sign, gives people a false expectation that they have coverage. They won't have coverage. They'll be vulnerable. I remember hearing from the chief some time ago that the Santera area is a canyon area that's burnt repeatedly. And so I think that we can reject the dedication and not move forward with the tentative maps in this very irresponsible growth area. Thank
Okay.
you. We don't have coverage. We do not have coverage.
Okay.
We will not have coverage. And let me just add, in taking on these tentative maps, we're rolling folks from Somerset's that expose and Mayberry, which has its own needs.
Okay. So just a comment from me too. I did not support the Santera because of, in part, because of concerns about fire danger. And what I do know is most of the fires there have not been started by electrical wires, but by target shooting and things like that. And I did a PSA myself, along with our fire chief and a firearm distributor about that problem years ago. But this is about BT South. I want to make sure. This is tied to the Meridian 120, right?
The property is owned by BT South, which is Meridian 120. However, the first final map is the Santera final map.
Okay.
But the requirement, per our zoning code, is tied to whichever first final map comes forward. Before that can record, they have to dedicate 3 acres, 2.9 acres to the city of Reno.
Okay. So my question, though, was I was under, as I recall, this is quite a while ago, as I recall, there, at a certain point in a number of houses to be developed, there had to come a fire station. That's what I recall. Is that wrong? Maybe I'm thinking of a different project.
For Santera, there was a requirement for a residential fire station, basically the idea that we take a house. Santera would build a house and convert it into a temporary fire station.
Right, that's what I'm referencing.
And so that is still part of the Santera.
And that's like at
requirements.
215 homes or something
I
like
think it
that?
was, I can't remember, 256 maybe. There was a number.
Okay.
No, actually, it was the 25th home.
25th home?
Correct.
So at 25 homes, Santera has to take a house and make it like as an informal fire station? Will it have a fire rig? Will it have our staff? I mean, what does it mean?
No, it was intended to be just truly a residential fire station.
I don't know what that is.
We don't have a definition for that. It is something that I will say, generally speaking, we don't have these anywhere else in the city of Reno. So it was something that was brought about at the time of Stonegate, when Stonegate came up with the idea of doing it.
That's what I recall too.
So we don't have them anywhere in the city of Reno. I think it's something we'd have to work through to the logistics of that.
Is the envisionment that it would be some kind of volunteer fire group or something?
It is something we would have to staff.
Figure it out.
So we would have to figure out how to staff it. It was intended to be more of a 2-man staffed, and it would be something to respond, I think, more to
medical
911 medical calls, not necessarily fire calls.
Okay, to be determined. But in the interim, we're here about the 3 acres.
This is land. Again, it is free land that is given to us. That if we choose to build a fire station, now we have a place to put it.
Right. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further comment? All right. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
All right. Motion passes, looks like 5-1. All right. Well, where are we, Madam Clerk, after this?
D1.
D1. All right. Moving on to D1, which is the Civil Service Audit Report.
Madam Vice Mayor, Council, City Manager Thornley, Rob Miller for the record, Staff Auditor. The item before you is the 2302 Civil Service Performance Audit. As a reminder, the internal audit function for the city is here to provide an appraisal of city department functions, actions, and accountability, transparency, and provide a culture of continuous improvement with the city operations. We are independent and objective and able to review staff actions and procedures and let you know how things are going.
And Rob, is this your first outing with us?
As part of audit staff.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
I've been with the city for a while with the budget staff before.
Right. But I mean, this is your first presentation to us that I recall.
For
For auditing.
Yes,
Okay,
that's
thank you.
It's a little familiar, but
Yeah,
it's always
it's
good to come
different
back.
still.
So the purpose of a performance audit, you are probably familiar with financial audits. We do those every year for the city, but the performance audit is assessing the use of resources and how we're achieving our objectives. I've got a list of 10 items that we really look for: effectiveness, efficiency, risk, of course, always, transparency, accountability. All of these things go into a performance audit review. So let's go into the findings. Remember, a finding is an area where we believe that there is additional risk associated with the finding that may need to be addressed. For this audit, we have 4 finding categories. These are in the groups of program and administration duties, security, expenses, and training. So for program and administration duties, what the audit determined was that there was confusion around the administration of recruiting and hiring tasks. The city charter actually bifurcates the civil service function within the city, and I'll go into it a little bit more later in the presentation, but that did create some confusion as to who does what. Who does the civil service function, what does HR do, and then what are the responsibilities for the hiring department. This also creates some confusion for due diligence, who's checking what on the applications. For our next group of audit findings, security, is the security of personally identifying information. This is an issue across the board. We've talked about before cybersecurity issues, issues with hacking and protection of individuals' information. So this is not unique to civil service, but it is something as auditors we look for in order to protect our applicants' information. So there were no processes or training regarding the use or distribution of paper application materials that came in or electronic application materials that came in. Under expenses, we found that we needed to have more proper supporting documentation for the purchase of food and beverages. Under Policy 303, food and beverages purchases are allowed. We needed more documentation on the business purpose for those purchases. And then under the training category, there were 3 findings here. All of them are similar, which is to provide systematic, iterative program training for hiring managers, for the civil service staff, as well as training to anyone that is dealing with the hiring process on the handling of application materials that may have personally identifying information. So moving into the audit recommendations, as I mentioned before, this process is bifurcated under the charter between the city manager and the civil service as headed by the Civil Service Commission. So we requested actual management actions and responses from both the city manager's office and the civil service. Because of the division of responsibility, both of these groups need to work together in order to address any of these findings. Our recommendations were grouped into 3 categories, which of course is to provide additional clarification for duties and expenditures, provide additional documentation, and to provide additional training. In the agenda packet that you received, the management responses were included as part of the audit report. These responses from both the chief examiner and the city manager's office adequately address the findings, and we will be following up with them within 6 months to determine where they're at on implementing those responses. We do want to acknowledge the work and the efforts that civil service has made, especially under Chief Examiner Ackerman. At the time of the audit, civil service had full staffing. They have been providing quarterly informational sessions and meeting with departments, which is a great first step. We are asking that they improve those and increase those. And then they've also provided additional website resources. With that, I'm available to take any questions on the audit report. Otherwise, I would be looking for a motion to accept the report.
I'm going to hand it back to the mayor, and I do have a
Great.
question.
Thank you so much. All right, council members,
I have a question.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rob, for the presentation. I do have a question. I've been puzzled about this for a really long time. Seems like the right time to ask. Is the bifurcation of the Civil Service Commission from HR common in other cities in Nevada, or are we one of just a few or one of only?
No, we are unique.
That's what I thought.
We are the only city in the state that requires, has a charter requirement that has a separation of those functions.
Yeah. So, and I've delved into the history a little bit about how do we get here. It sounds like it was a 1970s issue, very needed at that time. We've talked a lot today about life evolves, things change, all kind of things change. And I just wonder, it sounds like this is established in our charter for only Reno, Nevada, and all of Nevada. In the rest of Nevada, civil service issues, fair hiring practices, equitability of job, applying for a job is handled by the HR department with special staff that attend to that with special training. So I just gonna mention this. It seems like the right time, but I know our charter committee's meeting, and I just wonder, if it deserves some review in that process. So I'm planting a seed with my colleagues. And that said, I really don't have a lot of questions, but I will tell you this. When I first got to council 10 years ago, we had tremendous issues in the civil service area. It was understaffed. There was a turnover. There was a constant headbutting between the HR department and civil service. I could not understand it because I've worked for almost 40 years in other jurisdictions where HR properly handles these kind of issues. And it was very complicated, and it was impeding the hiring. Like the producing of the lists was very slow and convoluted, and it was taking months. And we had so many open positions at that time, we couldn't seem to hire people. So I guess I'm still informed by that early experience. It sounds like things are better because possibly we have different personnel involved that are not engaged in banging heads but are working more cooperatively together. Do you have any comment on that, since you did a deep dive into this?
Sure. So my first stint with the city started in 2008, 2009. And I would agree with your characterization of the civil service function at that time. I do know that Chief Ackerman, the Civil Service Commission, has worked very, very hard on improving that. There are additional resources, as I mentioned, having full staffing, that we've added staff members since that time to the civil service function. So I think all of those working together have made improvements. And hopefully with this audit, we can continue that work.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Madam Mayor. Yeah, hold on, Councilman Reese. I'll go this way.
I think, first of all, outstanding presentation. Appreciate that. I would expect nothing less from a Jayhawk or, that's, rock chalk. One of the things that struck me as interesting about the presentation, and it's not so connected to the civil service question you had, but you talked about training, right? That when you go out and perform audits, there's like this training element to it, right? Can you bring that slide back up? I sort of want to see that. And again, my thought was simply this. I think that there are opportunities for more training, right? I think that the audits are a super important function. But if all we do is complete the audit and shelve it once we've made the findings, but then we don't go out and make the changes, I think that there's room for improvement in the training aspects of it. And again, I'm not sure it's as to this specific thing, but I'm just thinking about the range of things for which an audit could be performed and then training could be made to had. We've done, I think, 5 or 6 audits in the last year or so that then came to council. And this is the first time I recall training being a real component of the findings. I'm searching my brain because I'm not saying that they weren't. It's just that this one stood out to me. And so that's why I sort of pause here, because I do think that the iterative program that you're talking about only happens if the training does occur. And so I just think it's a good, worthwhile thing to pause and reflect on. So thank you for that.
No problem.
Can I ask you, first of all, Rob, it's great to have you back.
Thank you.
I love it. How long have you been back now?
Since 2020, I got hired a week before the pandemic, sent us all home.
You're like, yay.
Right, I'm back.
But you
And
were
I'm
here,
back.
how long were you here before that?
For 5.5 years.
Yeah, okay. I really enjoyed working with you, so it's
Thank you.
just great. But we don't get you to come to council that much.
Yeah,
not much.
there may be reasons for that.
Can I ask you, it's not just with this audit, but with other audits, what kind of process do we have in place after you kind of come up with your findings and then to make sure that those things are implemented? Because we've seen this before, and I'm not sure about the process because obviously we're not really part of a department. So we don't know the process. So tell us how we can better implement some of these findings that you come up with and what that process is.
Sure. So for our audit standards, we are required to follow up on any findings and management responses. So we will always go back, depending on the management responses, and see what has happened. Throughout the audit, we are meeting with the department. We are living with them. We try to stay out of their way, but get the full picture of what's going on. So even during the audit phase itself, the field work phase, we are there asking about processes, asking those questions, figuring out what's going on, which oftentimes can lead to improvements without a finding ever happening.
I think that's really good and really important. I didn't know if that was happening, like if you just come and give your thing and then it gets into a file and that's it, done. But I would also like to know how responsive they are, and are they doing, like, do you get pushback when you're like, hey, you need to be doing this? And then they're like, no, we don't believe that. Or, those kinds of things. I think we also want to know how well it's working for you guys to make sure, because I do think you guys are at a level where it does separate and it's always really good, and transparency, and just how we overall get better when it comes to reporting, because Emily's been here so many times with, different aspects, and I think you've done a really, really good job. But, you go over a lot of different sort of departments here, so different recommendations. So I kind of would like to know how our team is doing as well and helping you.
Chime in?
What do you think?
Thank you for the question. For the record, Emily Kidd, Internal Auditor. This might help kind of what we're talking about on the overhead, if you don't mind, Madam Clerk.
Okay.
So sometimes there is pushback, right? Sometimes it might be hard to implement. Sometimes we don't have the cash to implement findings. But this is the overview of the 3 lines of defense model. This is a philosophy of where internal audit lives in the process, as well as senior management and the body. So the governing body, excuse me. So if you'll see, the board is there at the top and senior management as well. We need to stay independent. To your point, we are administratively under the city manager's office, but we do work independently to make sure we keep those lines really tight.
Sure.
So with this management group right now, the administrative team has been really helpful in promoting the changes at the department level that might not be as fun to do, that the department didn't want to implement. So we haven't had any problems recently, but if we do, we would reach out to you.
You will?
Yeah, and the Financial Advisory Board is kind of the step between us and you. There are our acting audit committee. Excuse me. So lots of jurisdictions will have their own separate audit committee. For example, Washoe County has their own group, and it would pull 3 or 2 of you from that, as well as public members are part of that board.
Right. Okay. I want to get a meeting with you so that we can talk about some areas in which I think we can improve on, because you're really good at this. So I'll save that for a whole other council meeting. Not even a council meeting.
You're in luck. We are ramping up for our annual audit planning process.
Great.
So you will see that email that you've seen in the past. We're starting that in March.
Good.
So we'll be asking questions from both senior management, department leaders. If you feel like there's something amiss in your reporting system, something like that, we can come in and take a look.
How do you feel that you're doing on follow-up after all of the audits that you do?
Yeah, follow-up has been better. Well, see, report 1803, that took 5 different follow-ups, so I was on that audit for many years. That was the building permitting process, and Acela was one of the hangups in the systematic.
I don't like Acela
programming.
at
Yeah,
all.
it's kind of one of the bad A words.
Yeah, it is. That's, ugh.
But yeah, we will follow up, and there is a point in the audit process where if it can't be implemented or don't want to implement it, management will accept the risk associated with not taking action, and then that is an option as well.
Okay, but do you feel like you're following up on a lot of these reports?
Yeah, all the follow-up is done. Anytime a department comes back and says, yes, we did that, we made this policy, I will then ask, I need to see the policy, and just really make sure everything is locked down in that space.
Okay.
Well, code is probably the most recent example because you did the audit, then you came back and so that's the example that I would use most recently.
Sorry to interrupt. And the idea is that once we highlight the issues, the departmental heads take ownership of that and then go forward and conquer with that information and the changes that have been made.
I love what your department does because it just gives us a whole different view on certain things than maybe what we sort of have been exposed to. I think you do a great job.
Great, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to send it to Councilwoman Breckus, and I guess you'll schedule meetings with all of us.
If
Sounds
you would like your liaison to reach out to us, we can get that on the books.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I just want to say good, clean audit. I'll look for the 6-month update. It seems like the HR department has more to-do lists than the civil service, but, it's a collaboration, obviously. And just want to reiterate, I support the Civil Service Commission. It's a very important check. If other members want to go talk to the Charter Committee and, talk about doing something differently, you go. But I'll stand for it. And I know that our workforce stands for it because they want a merit-based system for employment and promotion. They don't want a political or patronage-based system. And that is why we have a Civil Service Commission in Reno, Nevada, and that's why we need to have one. Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Councilman Reese.
Well, I think our motion was to accept the audit. Is that correct? So I'll make that motion. Thank you so much for the hard work.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion. Second. I have a second.
Do
you have some questions, Councilwoman?
I did, actually.
Okay.
So
Go ahead. We're in discussion, so go ahead.
Okay. So I noticed in the audit findings that there were some comments here that were made on page 12 of the Civil Service Audit Report. It said that what measures are planned to address this finding? Civil service staff is currently providing routine training to directors and hiring managers and other staff that utilize the NeoGov applicant tracking system. But then underneath it says quarterly training on various civil service processes and rules are covered during the regularly scheduled hiring team meetings with departments. Civil service staff will continue to provide these in-depth trainings on specific rules and processes that include the portions of recruitment process covered by civil service. Director and hiring manager attendance at regularly scheduled meetings and trainings is sporadic and interferes with our ability to provide valuable information to them. So it sounds like there are some things that are being provided by civil service that maybe aren't being attended by the groups that maybe should attend. Do you think that that's maybe causing some of the findings in this audit that, maybe are not necessarily the fault of civil service following procedure or being available, but maybe that there needs to be some communication with the hiring managers or people that need to meet with civil service?
Thank you for the question, Councilwoman. I don't think that that's necessarily the case. From what was uncovered during the audit was more of a refinement of what's going into those trainings, specifically the PII or specific roles and duties. So we would always recommend that staff trainings be well attended. But the confusion was beyond just lack of attendance at certain meetings. That would be a management decision on how those trainings are implemented.
So you would say that the trainings themselves were not not sufficient and what they
The
provided?
trainings themselves are great. I've attended several. There were just some specific things that we found that would provide clarity to the issues that came up during the audit period.
Okay, so those weren't covered during the trainings?
Not specifically the ones that I attended, nor did they come up as they came up as needed clarification during interviews with staff members.
Okay, and you would say that's not a result of them not attending the trainings?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, good job. Nice to see you guys.
All right, Madam Mayor, we're on item G1, which is a commissioner appointment to the Reno Housing Authority.
All right. Hold on, G1. At this time, I believe we're going to hand it over to our city manager.
Awesome. Well, then I would like to recommend that we stay the course with Mr. Ayazi.
All right, thank you so much. I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Madam Clerk, back at you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're moving on to item H1, City Council comments.
All right, any comments from council members?
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
So Nevada Revised Statute 288, 220, certain proceedings not required to be open or public. Sub 4, any meeting of the governing body of a local government employer with its management representative or representatives. A meeting of the governing body. The Reno Charter 3.0602 sub B says the city attorney shall attend all city council meetings. I don't know how, reading those two in tandem, the city attorney can feel that he's not going to be present at a gathering meeting of the council to discuss collective bargaining with our labor team. I don't understand that. I don't know why the city attorney wants to pick and choose how he does his job. I don't know if there's a division with the attorney and our city manager and labor groups, but I will not participate unless I get a solid briefing that I can read on why those two in tandem do not require the city attorney to be present at our collective bargaining meetings.
Sure, and if I could address that, this is John Shipman at the City Attorney's Office. So as you remember last year, the City Council hired special counsel to handle the labor negotiations briefings through the HR department. And it's been our pattern and practice not to attend those meetings as we did in the last go-round. So that's essentially where we are at this point today. If there's a need for the city attorney to be there, I mean, we're open to hear what that would be, but we're not here to be doing open meeting law compliance or anything like that, because this, again, is not an open meeting or a meeting of that. So if there's a question or an issue that you have or a legal question that you had, we'll be happy to answer it.
Well, I've seen you at every other meeting when the city council has exercised the 6/7 provision and had outside counsel.
So when you say the 6/7 provision, I mean, I don't even know what we're talking about there. We're talking about that in the last labor go-around, the city manager's office and through the city council hired a labor attorney to help with the negotiations.
It still says you attend all meetings of the city council, okay?
And again, that's...
You want to decide not to do that with the charter? Maybe we'll bring it to the charter committee and have them look into it. But I think you need to be there at all these meetings. And I would also like to see this contract with the... Thank you.
Okay, well, I apologize for that demeanor. I would always refer to our city attorneys who are attorneys.
Madam Mayor, you don't need to
No.
apologize for me.
I know.
I don't
I just-
apologize for you. I don't apologize for you when you,
But Jenny,
when
just
you
the
hold
way that
staff
you
responsible
delivered it
for your extravagant travel.
Can be adversarial.
I don't hold you, apologize to anyone when you do those sort of things.
Excuse me, you always want to say, stop, let me interrupt, let's talk, all that, okay? So I don't want,
When
I'm
you
speaking.
apologize for me, you
Good.
demean what I'm saying for myself. And I don't apologize for you.
Well, I
We
just don't
all
want
are
you to be
accountable for our own
adversarial, Jenny.
behavior.
I think you can
okay?
get a lot more done if you're not adversarial.
And if you're going to
Okay.
apologize and use your provision as the
Okay.
chair to
we're done.
minimize what I say,
We're done.
That's
Thank
a problem.
you. Thank you.
I don't apologize for you and your behavior of having people
Well, I
make
apologize
excuses for
I
your behavior.
apologize for you. Thank you. All right, moving along. Madam Clerk, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're moving on to item J1, which is closing public comment. We do not have anyone registered, but for the record, we did receive 5 letters of correspondence either after 4 p.m. yesterday or items that were general in nature throughout the day today. So those were 1 letters of support, 1 letter of opposition, and 3 letters of concern. And with that, we have no additional public comment. We're moving on to item K, adjournment.
All right. Second. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, thanks, everyone.